Okay. Okay, well, you could not. Oh, no. Okay. Okay. Nope. Nope. Could you tell I wasn't ready? Oh, Ray's here. Hi, I'm, late and this is my podcast. Fuck me. No, accurate. No, hi, welcome to the show, where I'm late and I struggle to get recording equipment set up. That's it. That's the entire show. Good night, folks. We're gonna end early today. No. It's not true. It's not true. Loads of shit to get to today. If anything, we'll be here later than normal. Which is a shame, because Lady Aoife's not here. Everybody tell Lady Aoife, be sure to tell Lady Aoife that you miss her. Swift Blood, what up? Excuse me while I take off my shoes off camera. I can't... As some people will know, there's a giant blanket in my way. So that's what's up. It's over here, and I can't get through here, and I don't want to stomp on it with my boots. Because as everybody knows, it's a huge hassle to wash. Just gonna shove this, God, it's like a workout. Fuck. Get over here. Oh my fucking God. Okay. I'm not in cosplay today because I was redoing Johannes' wig and I was hoping to squeeze into Johannes before I was working on different Johannes makeup for today. And I ran out of product for Johannes' hair, so it didn't get done. I was still kind of working on the makeup all the way up until 7 minutes ago to be exact. Oh yeah, it's definitely giving me problems. As always. Here, let me move this. I'm gonna move this. There's a lot of stuff over here. I got a bunch of stuff. Someone sent me a bunch of stuff. So there's a large amount of real estate on my floor here dedicated to a lot of stuff. So thank you. Maybe, I know. Not maybe, thank you. Perhaps. Maybe, perhaps. Thank you, maybe. It sounds like I'm not sure about thanking you. In actuality, I'm thanking the individual, maybe, you know. It does. It makes it sound like I'm unsure. I'm very sure. Friday, possibly. Oh, okay. Damn, there's a lot of packages coming. And they're very heavy, these packages. And I'm unclear what could be in here that could be so heavy. So, we're gonna open them. Should we open them now? Should we open them later? Should we open them fucking... I don't know. Yes. Okay. We got a lot to get through today, so we're gonna have to go kind of quick. Also, side note, I want to say this at the top of the show so I don't forget. Next week, we're not going to have a live. We're going to hold off the starting of the 4th book. I know, everybody is probably going to be super upset. But I wanted to let you all know, that mine and Sarah's anniversary is actually on the 4th. And we can't celebrate it because everything is closed because it's Independence Day or like whatever. So we're going to go out on Tuesday. So we're going to have our anniversary on Tuesday. Thank you for the roses. And hopefully that doesn't deter you all. We'll be back same time after that Tuesday. Thank you. His anniversary gift is in the garage. Don't tell him. No, he knows. I hid it. He knows I hid it in there. But we're gonna have our anniversary on next Tuesday. So I just wanted to warn you of that, because it's kind of impossible to celebrate stuff on a fucking national holiday when everything is fucking closed. So, the struggle. Anyway. Hopefully you all don't hate me too much. I know I'm putting it off, but it's a good place to stop. If that makes sense, at least it's not like on a cliffhanger or something. So, maybe not cancel me on Twitter. Don't do that, please. I suppose you could. Nobody knows me on Twitter. It's fine. If you really wanted to, I mean, thank you for all the congratulations. Yeah, so hopefully nobody's gonna be too upset. But yeah, I just want to let you know that. Anyway, packages, right, that's what I was doing before. Okay, we have two, and they're really heavy. So we're gonna open these. I don't know if one person is responsible for both of these, if they're both maybe, or if these are oh, it'll be 11 years. It'll be like 11 years. 11 years. Holy fuck. Damn. Sorry, it just hit me. I was like counting in my head and I was like, oh, well, we met in... we met in 2011. What the hell? It's not discontinued. From maybe. Oh, I'm gonna have to text Jasmine. Jasmine has to know. Jasmine has to know. All right. Sorry, I'm getting the notes out of here. I shouldn't put them there. I have to use that laptop. Well, it isn't. It's not. You're right. It's not. It's not. Oh my god. I was like, why is this so heavy? What could potentially be on Amazon? Oh, shit. This is heavy. Where's my knife? Well, you know what? It's fine. You know what? It's fine. Screw the knife. Shuck. Well, cheers. Yeah, I like these. We're gonna have to get Jasmine, like, half of this. I'm gonna split it with Jasmine. I'm gonna update Jasmine on the situation right after this live. Unless, Dad, you have Jasmine's number and want to text her or something. Yeah, like that's gonna stop me. Sorry. But it's warm. Sorry. Just the... What? Listen, you didn't know me when I was a child. When I was a child and I attended high school and I was a lot younger, I used to have a whole case of Monster in my locker at all times. It was always warm. Always. I don't remember the last time I actually had a cold Monster. You go hardcore, you don't go at all, friend. Anyway. Thank you for all the monster. I'll have to split it with Jasmine. I'm gonna let her know after this. Fucking mosquitoes in the house. Okay, it's fine. It's fine. I'm gonna deal with it like an adult. My batteries just died. Right at the top of this. Okay, we're gonna open the others. Because I have another package here. Holy fuck. Oh my god. Okay. Got it. Always cut away from yourself, kids. Never, oof, that was a little bit of a stretch. Ooh, there we go. All right. There's a lot of shit in here. Why is there so much shit in here? Oh my god. Ooh, I love these. These are so much fun. I just like watching them deflate. Doesn't that make you feel a little bit better inside? You just watch something slowly deflate over time. Anyway. You still cut towards you? For shame. Okay. What is this? What is this? What is this? What? What am I looking at? What am I looking at here? What? Is this a circus tent? What is this? Oh, I know what this is. Oh, I know what this is. Oh, I know what this is. We're going to get to this in a little bit. This is going to be fun. Okay. You can't really see it. It's very sheer. It's like a black robe. It's like a sheer black robe. We're going to use it for a character that you're going to meet. Yeah, in the next book. We're about to get into it, guys. We're about to get into it. It's going to be fun. Anyway. Yeah, that'll be fun. Good to know. This is probably the least concerning thing on the list from maybe. All right. Emergency coffee supply from maybe. This seems out of character from maybe. You're right, it is out of character for Johannes, but not for some of the other characters we're going to get into. She has two outfits. Well, there's monster in here. So does this go with the monster? I figure out of character went with the robe. Haha. And it's the mocha kind. The mocha is the one that I like the most, that is continuously available normally. Or the one that I find the most, apart from the vanilla. So, but the mocha is my favorite one and the only one that I'll drink. Except for the Irish one, which I really like, but I can never find that one. So, fun stuff. Hey, what's up? Oh, it just hit me. I didn't change the title of the live. Yeah. It fits. I was in a hurry. And I was only half in makeup. And I didn't put my wig on. Because I was restyling it. Hi, nice to see you. I'm Toshi, and this is The Shit Show, where I fuck up 10 times right at the top. Yeah, they do. This one's wrong. Don't look at this one. It's wrong, because it's wrong. Wait, there's something else in here. Hold on. and some more. We're going to make tea first. We're going to make some teeth. We're going to make some ghoul teeth. We're going to make some teeth. They could also technically be Kirapima teeth. No, unfortunately not. Don't get your hopes up. Everybody's going to be like, yeah, you're doing Kirishima. I'm not doing Kirishima. I don't have any of the other stuff on my wish list for Kirishima. That should give you a clue. It's not for Kirishima. I'm gonna be a monster. What I've always been inside. So, I've warned you now. This isn't Kirishima. And if you're disappointed later, just remember that I warned you. But, it's not Kirishima. I'm just terrible. Keep that in mind. Thank you. And some more. Gonna make some tea. Got a bunch of coffee. Thank you, maybe. You know I'm gonna be a ghoul. You know it. You know it in your heart of hearts. You've always known it. Do you really have to ask? Thank you very much, maybe. I really appreciate it. All right. I have so much coffee. I have so much. Oh my gosh. This is so much. I have to. We're going to get into a whole other character. You're going to realize what this robe is for almost immediately. And you're going to realize what the other wigs are for on my wish list. You're going to know. You're going to be able to put it together. Yeah, I do. Actually, I realized that was a jab. Okay? And, it's funny. It's funny, haha. Funny, my caffeine addiction. But yeah, it is enough for a week. Thanks. Thanks, Swiftblood, for that astute observation. Replacing my batteries real quick. All right. Got it. I should have refilled this. Y'all, you do not need to send me any more Strange Brew right now. I'm telling you, I'm fine. Although, I do like the Irish coffee one. Tastes like Bailey's. It's delicious. Anyway. Well, I technically made coffee. And then I got more coffee. It's alright. I'll drink all of it. You know I will. Anyway. Maybe before this live's over. I'm not sure. Normally I go through the coffee first before I start my water. So now I don't even have to get up. In between the live and the VC hour. Which is what we're going to be doing after this. We always do that. And we're going to have a fun time. Yeah. Actually, we're going to have a fun time today. We're going to meet a new character. We're going to get into my favorite short stories of the entire thing. Swiftblood's going to realize what that sweater she sent me was for. It's going to be great. It's going to be a fun time. So, are we ready to get into it? Because I have the first one. We can even vote, actually, depending on what you want to do. We can do Ouroboros Ouzo, or we can do a long spoon first. It doesn't matter if we do it in the order that I want to, that's fine too, but I figure we get done with the shorter one first, move on to the longer one, because a long spoon is, Well, it's long. It's long. The spoon isn't, but the story is. My choice. I'm the expert. Choice you mentioned, as always. Okay. We'll start with Ouroboros Ouzo. Namely because it's shorter. And also because this one takes place before Fear Institute. But also after Fear Institute. You'll see what I mean. And the other one is questionable as to where it appears in the timeline. It potentially, now it was written after, it was one of the last short stories written, but it technically does not have a mentionable timeline, just that it had taken place after the first book. So it could be anywhere in between, but we are not sure. Ooh, if you have not been here before and you're confused about what we're talking about, this is a book club where I normally am dressed as Shinzo or in cosplay, and I read you a story to kind of round off your Tuesday, okay? And we meet here every Tuesday at 8 Central. And I read you a story, and right now we're going through a series called Johannes Cabal. Now, if you don't know who that is, he's a little infamous necromancer who gets into a lot of shit, and he has 5 books, and we just finished the 3rd one. And he also has a bunch of short stories. Now, you can enjoy these as individual stories with no prior knowledge of the series, or you can go to my bio, click the link in the link tree. There's a YouTube link. Should take you to every live we've ever done, and also some ones that got deleted and I had to record just the audio of the rest of the Johannes Cabal saga if you are interested and want to know what we're doing here. But apart from that, you're going to be very confused because these are short stories and I don't really have a lengthy backstory for you to preclude these. Just that he's a necromancer and he gets himself into a lot of beef with a lot of entities and or people and or dimensions and or things. Sometimes animals. Anyway. Not exactly the hero, but the main character at least. So much beef. You love listening to me read stories. That's awesome to hear. I love reading them. And we're going to get into some short stories, people. Okay. This is the part where you get ready to jam. So get your shit ready, ghouls and gays. We got to get the drinks. We got to get the pets. We got to get your smoothie, your blanket, your snacks. Whatever you got to do it now. We'll have an intermission after the first story. But the first story is pretty short, so shouldn't take too long. Now both of these are only available on ebook because they're so short. So I have them on my laptop. It's really going to affect my lighting, and I'm sure my face looks crazy right now because I was only halfway done through my makeup. I was trying to get through it all. Well, I have to unlock it. Da-da-da-da-da. Okay. And there's kind of some interesting stuff, especially for maybe, because we still have to have a discussion. And low-key, this short story, kind of with it. We'll discuss. You all ready? Sweet. All right, too. Greece did not find favor with Johannes Cabal. It was too bright, too hot. Too many of the locals wore their shirts open-necked and rolled-sleeved for his liking, and the place was awash with foreigners of every shade intent on absorbing culture through osmosis rather than study. While he respected the country for undeniably being the cradle of modern Western civilization, although not the several previous Western civilizations, a nugget of occult knowledge he kept to himself as much because he was antisocial as for any reasons of avoiding upset to current orthodoxy. He found little to admire in the current state of the place. It didn't seem to be trying very hard these days, contenting itself with harvesting olives and pandering to tourists. He also found the sight of Greek Orthodox priests sinister, and this from a man who encountered priesthoods that wore the flayed skins of their human sacrifices. Human leather jerkins were one thing, but those big Greek Orthodox Kamalokian hats were simply baleful. It may therefore be taken as a given that it would take a great deal to induce Cabal to travel so far and to suffer such discomforts. If one expected him to immediately hie himself off to some museum to relieve it of an item that was vital to his studies, however, one would be disappointed. It also says little, for one, that one would be disappointed in the non-criminal behavior of another. One should be ashamed of oneself. Disappointment aside, it was usual for any lengthy trip Cabal took to involve a serious felony at some point, with misdemeanors scattered carelessly about it. Not this time, however. Cabal arrived at his hotel, rested and refreshed himself, and then made his way to a small tavern at the edge of the little town at which he had arrived. It was clean, almost austere establishment, backed by a cliff and overlooking the cleft in the land where the town had formed around a natural harbor. Fishing boats bobbed at anchor by the quay, and the brilliant Mediterranean sun glinted from the wine-dark sea of Homer, although it looked more like blue to Cabal. Even with his smoked glass spectacles, it was too irritatingly bright to his eyes made sensitive by a surfeit of darkness, and he was glad to turn his back upon it and enter the tavern. This place was almost deserted, he was pleased to note, as his eyes adjusted to the less strident light. There was a man, presumably the owner, standing behind the bar. Cabal noted the paunched dark hair turning to gray at the temples, the carefully kept mustache, the expression of very mild curiosity as he looked up from his newspaper. A natural philosopher, Cabal concluded, reasonably intelligent, although likely ill-educated. Not an uncommon type for a guardian. Cabal felt he was on familiar ground. The tavern owner seemed to take in Cabal with equal rapidity. "Good morning, sir," he said in a clear, if accented English. "We do not open until noon. I am sorry." Cabal did not reply. He walked to the bar, feeling in his jacket pocket as he did so. His jacket was not of his habitual black, nor were his trousers, nor even his shoes or hat. Instead, he had outfitted himself in cream linen, and wore a light hat of the kind known as a Panama. He had convinced himself of the necessity not to die of heat exhaustion, and had planned his wardrobe accordingly, though it pained him. He was only glad that he would not be seen by anybody who he might see again. While Cabal prided himself on his lack of vanity, he was deluding himself on this score. In his pocket, he found, nestling against a 25 ACP baby Browning semi-automatic pistol, a coin. He tossed it onto the bar where it clattered on its back for a second before settling. The tavern owner looked down, placidly unconcerned. Cabal had the distinct impression that the man would have been more taken aback if the coin had been a normal one. That it was a gold coin about the size of a florin, and that only a handful of similar coins had ever been minted was entirely to be expected, it seemed. The tavern owner picked it up and studied it briefly, taking in the design of a snake swallowing its tail on both the obverse and reverse sides, the only difference being the one design was the mirror image of the other. It was a far more cursory glance than the close study Cabal had given it when it had first come into his possession. He had seen that the representation of a snake was thoroughly medieval, and that it would make any herpetologist tear at his beard or make similar expression of dismay. For one thing, it had legs. assuming it wasn't meant to be a rendering of a dragon, in which case it still wasn't covering itself in glory as the creature had no wings. Cabal could only guess that the artist had somehow never seen a snake and had taken the biblical curse upon the serpent to crawl upon its belly to mean that it had stumpy little legs rather than none at all. As an aside, Johannes Cabal loathed medieval figurative art with an acidic disdain. One might say that this was a petty sort of thing to be vexed by, and that he should show a little perspective. Cabal would say if only medieval artists had shown any, he would not hate their work so much. Ooh. Pause. I unplugged my laptop in. Like this. The tavern owner looked up and looked Cabal in the face, dropping the coin into his waistcoat pocket. "You're expected," he said, a note of weariness in his voice, as if his duty lay heavily upon him and rarely ended well. Cabal was hardly surprised that his arrival had been anticipated. The coin had cost him far more than its weight in gold, both in money and favors. Of course, the agents of this enterprise would have communicated its sale to the taverna. "Then you're ready for me?" said Cabal. More than once in the past, this would have been a signal for a bunch of cultist assassins to come boiling out of a back room, and Cabal regretted that his usual Webley 577 was at home. Too huge a handgun to sail through customs without attracting attention. Still, the Browning was loaded and hollow-nosed rounds, so that was some recompense. The owner sighed, the sigh of a man who does not enjoy this part of his job, but no cultist came a-boiling, so Cabal understood his melancholy to be entirely spiritual. "Your friend arrived half an hour ago. He's waiting in the private room." "Friend?" said Cabal. The idea was baffling to him. "I have no friends." And this was no more than the truth. "Colleague, then," said the owner, uninterested in semantics. "Nor colleagues, for it is the lot of a necromancer to live a life of solitude, the only type of party they generally attend being the sort that involves an impromptu hanging and a burning of their life's work." "There is a man," said the owner, running out of synonyms for friend in his small yet functional English vocabulary. "He is in the private room. He said you would be coming." Cabal considered the possibilities and concluded that it could only be somebody involved further up the diffuse structure of what in one light was a business and in another a conspiracy. That he was unknown to the tavern owner was hardly surprising in that case. "This man, what does he look like?" "You will see him in a moment," said the owner, and led the way before Cabal could outline the advantages of forewarnings. Cabal followed the man up into an enclosed stairwell and thence to a short landing above the tavern's public room. He opened a door and gestured inside. With some small foreboding, Cabal entered, but was only surprised to find himself in the small private dining room, alone. When the owner looked in, the glances he gave hither and thither showed he was not alone in this. "He was here," said the owner. He seemed mildly curious rather than perturbed. "An old man? He said you would be here soon." He dispensed the mystery from his attention with a shake of his head. "He must have left for a minute. He will be back. I will bring you your meal, mister." "I didn't come here to eat," said Cabal sharply. The tavern owner looked at him with a little pity. "You cannot drink on an empty stomach. It is bad." He vanished from the doorway, and Cabal heard his heavy tread descending the stairs. Left alone, Johannes Cabal inspected the room. The first thing he noted, barely consciously, but by a reflex born of hard experience, was that the room only had one door by which to enter and exit it. There was, however, a broad window overlooking the wood and canvas canopy that protected the outdoor dining area, and one light was open to allow the gentle sea breeze in. This, if push came to shove, as it so often did, would allow a rapid, if undignified, egress, and the frame looked strong enough to bear the weight of a running necromancer, should he decide to escape this way or that. The room itself was as austere as the one below it, with only a few small cheap prints of the Parthenon, the Acropolis, and the sanctuary of Asclepius and Epidaurus to clutter the walls. There was a couple of bookshelves and an alcove, but these were barely troubled by a handful of books on each, and mercifully for Cabal's easily bruised aesthetic sense, no items of bric-a-brac. For furniture, a square table with 2 chairs facing one another. He was absorbed by the view across the bay to a steep headland when the taverna owner returned, bearing a tray upon which a plate of finger foods, some bread, a shot glass, and a miniature bottle of green glass. He looked around the room once more, displaying some amusement. "You still can't find this mysterious friend of mine, can you?" ventured Cabal. "Oh, no," replied the owner, still peering around. "I have seen him just now, on the stairs ahead of me." He looked at Cabal as if he could explain the matter. "The old gentleman came in here." "Nobody has come in here until you returned just now," said Cabal with heavy emphasis. He looked at the tray. "Leave it on the table, if you would." The taverna owner did so, and with another glance around the room, left. Cabal sat down, back to the window facing the door, and arranged the meal to his satisfaction. The plate of bread here, the bowls of tzatziki and dolmadakia there, an array of crudites thus. He took a carrot stick. The presence of carrot was apparently the platter's nod to international cuisine, and the small bottle crunched thoughtfully upon the former as he regarded the latter. The bottle was stoppered with a small cork, sealed in orange wax, and the body was marked only with a simple label. It bore no writing, only the image of Ouroboros, the snake, eating its own tail. This was why he had come here. This was the product of a great investment in time and assets. He had to admit, it did not seem like so very much. The glass contained a few fragments of ice, freshly chipped. He took a switchblade from his pocket, clicked it open, and carefully peeled away the seal. Once freed, the cork came away easily, and he dropped it by his plate. Cabal took a cautious sniff at the bottle's open mouth, and shied a little from the strong smell of anise that met him. With a small grunt of displeasure, for he was no great devotee of louching spirits, be they sambuca, absinthe, or, as in this case, ouzo, he poured the liquid over the ice. As it mixed with the ice water, brought bleeding from the fragments, the clear spirit grew cloudy. Cabal knew it was nothing more remarkable than the formation of an emulsion, but it seemed fanciful to him that the ouzo was making the water curdle. He thinned his lips, both in response to such an unscientific thought and to the terrible ordeal that faced him. He strongly disliked ouzo and its kin. He put the fateful moment off a little longer by dabbling another carrot stick in the tzatziki and slowly eating it. As he ate, he regarded the door before him. It was open, allowing him a view of the small, empty landing. This was not interesting in itself, but that he was sure that the taverna owner had shut the door on leaving. Yet there it was, open. He had not turned his back on it for 1 second, nor barely taken his eyes from it. Yet there it was, open. He has a strong sense that he already knew the significance of this, and although this was not intrinsically perilous in itself, still it served to make the room seem a little chillier. He took up the glass and sipped at the liquor. It was vile by his lights in any case. Still, he was not here to enjoy the stuff, only to endure it. He tilted back his head and poured the foul stuff down his throat. Even as he was swallowing, he was slamming down the glass and reaching for some food to take the taste away. As he chewed on some fragments of salad, an old man, entered the room. The man did not introduce himself or even acknowledge Cabal's presence immediately. He simply drew back the chair opposite Cabal and sat there, looking around the room with bored curiosity as if in a waiting room. Finally, he looked across the table, yet still did not meet Cabal's gaze until the man frowned slightly, and he saw Cabal as if it were the first time he had even noticed he was present. "Ah," said the man, "there you are." "I have been here the whole time," said Cabal. "No," said the man. "No, you haven't. Not the whole time." Cabal decided he didn't like the man. Now it only remained to see where on the spectrum of animosity he should place him, which would indicate what actions he might pick from his palette of unpleasantness. Anything from cutting sarcasm all the way through to emptying the Browning into the man. Cabal looked the newcomer up and down. He seemed to be a reasonably well-preserved 60-odd-year-old, thinning white hair, a pale complexion, blue eyes, only a little rheumy. Cabal looked at the man's eyes, then at the shape of his face. He exhaled contemptuously. "Oh, for God's sakes," Cabal says. "This is how the stuff works?" "Well, yes," said the man complacently. "What were you expecting? A shining tunnel into the unknown? Really, young man, if you'd continue your researches even an hour longer, this would be no surprise to you." "I researched for 3 weeks. Should have made it 3 weeks in an hour then, shouldn't you?" The man helped himself to some bread and dolma. "Don't mind, do you?" he said, and started eating without waiting for a reply. The man ate unhurriedly for the next half a minute while Cabal's short fuse burnt out. "Well?" he demanded finally. "Tell me." The man had just taken a bite of bread and chewed it slowly, at the same time signaling by means of hand gestures to Cabal that he had just taken a bite of bread, was chewing it slowly, and would Cabal be so kind as to wait until he had swallowed? "There," he said once he had swallowed. "Much better. I missed breakfast to be here." "Do I really become so irritating?" "Not at all," said the man who was also Johannes Cabal. "You're irritating now. You simply become a little more urbane in how you express it. There, I have vouchsafed you a vision of the future. I'll be getting along now." He did not get up, but only smiled at Cabal. "Not really what you had in mind, is it?" "You know full well why you're here," said Cabal, grateful that he could theoretically do his future self to death without endangering his own existence. The man picked up the empty bottle and examined the wordless label. "Ouroboros Ouzo, one of the number of interesting potions that will only work for the imbiber once. You appreciate that I have spent many years wishing I'd saved that coin for a more worthy use. Still..." He shook the bottle and put it down. "What is done is done." Cabal started to open his mouth, but the man interrupted him with, "Yes, I'm sure that if you had really wanted a selection of well-worn aphorisms, you could have bought a box of Christmas crackers and regaled yourself with the mottos. I remember saying that when I sat where you're sitting. My, it was so amusing." He smiled. He did so easily, and Cabal realized that he must do so habitually. A small terror ran through him. Just what monster had he summoned from the veiled future? But, wait. Was that sarcasm? "Yes," the smile did not waver. "Of the cutting variety. So I am summoned by the agency of a platter of food and a disgusting drink. Indeed, I can tell you this of our future, you shall never acquire a liking for ouzo. Still, much nicer than all that mucking around with dead goats and such like when you're summoning demons. That never gets any better." "If you were me," said Cabal, although he knew it certainly was, "then you know what I'm about to ask." "Of course." The man leaned forward, the smile fading. "You will also appreciate why I cannot tell you." Cabal did not. "What?" he said, slightly stunned by this development. You had better be able to tell me. I did not willingly. Yes, I know. How can I not? It's inconvenient. It's hot. You feel your dignity is being weighed upon, although if it's any compensation, that outfit actually rather suits you. No compensation at all, said Cabal, anger flicking like a cat's tail. Little point in growing angry with me. The only reason I'm not furious with you is that I have had years to get over it. Indeed, I have reconciled myself to my imminent extinction at your hands. Not actual hands, he added quickly. Metaphorical hands. Inwardly, Cabal shrank the spectrum of animosity so that it no longer included shooting himself 6 times across a table. I don't know what you mean, he said. I have no intention of harming you. Well, I know that, said the man impatiently. That's not what I meant. I must admit, I wish I could recall this conversation better. I shall make notes, said Cabal, reaching for his inner jacket pocket. No, said the man with a sudden glint of real anger that absolutely confirmed to Cabal's satisfaction that he was talking to himself. Don't do that. Why would you do that? You'll make this whole conversation unbelievably tedious if you know exactly what's going to be said. Far more fun just to forget about it. Fun? Said Cabal, his tone hollow. Perhaps this was not his future self, after all. Yes, fun. At some point, you will unexpectedly come down with an attack of fun and find that you actually rather like... The man paused, even flinched slightly. Wait, I remember this. I very much doubt, began Cabal, but the man was gone. Or at least he had been replaced by himself, but different. Where he had been wearing a suit much like Cabal's current linen affair, now he was in black. He was tanned, weathered, and gaunt, and he had but one eye, the dead socket covered by an eye patch. Running down his brow to the cheek was an ugly, jagged scar, a reminder of the incident that must surely have taken the eye. Cabal looked at his new version of himself, of his future self, and blinked. No predetermination, he said in little more than a whisper. Of course there's no predetermination, you fucking idiot, said the man, except where the lines cross. That staples things down. This, he gestured at the room where they were in and slapped both palms on the table for emphasis, is predetermined. You had to be here because I'm here, and so was he, the version you just shunted off into oblivion because fun is a dirty word to us. Cabal did not reply. He was too busy taking in the actual nature of the vision that the Ouzo had granted him. He had not been expecting anything so contingent on factors he could not foresee. This is not what I expected. I simply wanted to know if your current research is worthwhile, because you can see it taking years to find out the hard way. He fell silent and looked at Cabal. It was hard to know if he did so with loathing or whether that was just how his face looked in that future. And does it? Asked Cabal. In my life, I'm still working on it, but there have been distractions. He tapped the lower end of the scar. In that last versions, I don't know. You eliminated him before finding out. I didn't mean to, said Cabal, sounding somewhat feeble even to his ear. I didn't mean to. It is bad enough being mimicked disrespectfully at the best of times, but it is immeasurably worse when one does it to insult oneself, and is thus rather too accurate for comfort. God's teeth, boy, snarled the man. Didn't your experience in the ghoul warrens teach you anything? Ghoul warrens? What ghoul warrens? The man settled back in his chair, exasperated with himself for making an unforgivable temporal faux pas. Oh, Scheiße, he said, and then he was no longer there. It was not simply the case that he vanished, but that he had never been, nor would he ever. His replacement was, and would be, no improvement. Cabal took in the canine muzzle, the erect ears, the horrible rubbery flesh, the nakedness. His new interlocutor was not at all interested in him. Instead, it poked around amidst his plate. No pope, it reported at last, clearly disappointed. No, said Cabal, both to the inferred question and to the possible future. The chair was empty. Cabal looked at it, his brow furrowed. Did this mean that his current state of mind would simply take him down a path in which he would surely die? Or there was the faint possibility that he took up a piece of onion from his salad and tossed it at the chair. It behaved exactly as one might expect. So he didn't end up invisible in that future, or he also had to consider the possibility that the ouzo had run its course and he had endured all the glimpses of the future he was going to. Neither of these was the most likely explanation for his absence in the chair, and therefore his future. But this most likely explanation was not one he cared to think about in any great detail. Instead, he tried flexing his potentiality. He made up his mind that he would do this rather than in that future, go here rather than there. The chair remained stubbornly empty. Cabal swallowed slowly. He couldn't be dead in all those futures, could he? He picked up the miniature bottle. Perhaps there might just be a few drops left, and surely that would count as part of the same dose. He was just about to upend the bottle over the shot glass when the chair was suddenly occupied by himself, looking much the same as his already did, but for some obvious putrefaction in the eternally confused mind of the average zombie. Oh dear, said Cabal quietly. The undead him looked across the table at the alive him and shrugged hopelessly. I don't suppose you recall what led you to your current state, do you? Cabal asked, without any great expectation of an answer. He was therefore surprised when the zombie pointed at the bottle in his hand and wagged a rotting finger at him. Really? Asked Cabal. He carefully put the bottle down as one might a slumbering scorpion. A second dose will... The zombie nodded and indicated itself mournfully with a jab of the thumb. Well, I shan't do that then, said Cabal. The zombie was just swiveling its wrist to give him a thumbs up when it disappeared, likely to their mutual relief. In rapid succession, he was treated to visions of himself as a college don, a miserable morphine addict, a semi-mechanical butler, and to his considerable astonishment, a woman. How is that possible? He asked her, which is to say, himself. How is that possible, even in a general sense? Complicated, darling, said his female alter ego, affixing a cigarette into a holder. Complicated? It's well nigh inconceivable. She did not look at all like him, although when she looked sideways at him, he recognized those eyes very well from his shaving mirror. To his horror, he also found her, which is to say him, which is to say himself, attractive? His confusion either showed in his face, or she remembered this interview all too well. She smiled with amusement. So vain, she said. She blinked out of existence, even as she was reaching for her lighter. He was caught by the lay for a long moment. Everything else he could see a path to. Even to the semi-mechanical butler, a fate he dodged once, and he would apparently have to watch out for again in the future. A woman, though, how? Kindly attend, said the man sitting opposite. It was Johannes Cabal, of course, but unscarred, untrammeled, and his usual gender. He was also unaged in any way, and wearing exactly the same cream linen suit. How far from me are you in time? Asked Cabal. The man consulted his pocket watch, then held it up for Cabal to see. A swift comparison showed a difference of only 3 minutes. Cabal's brow clouded as he put away his watch. I don't understand. I know, said the man. So listen, that stuff, he nodded at the ouzo bottle, is a trap. It puts you into the impossible position of second-guessing yourself for the rest of your life. Every possibility, every contingency will haunt you and persecute you. Presently, you will find it impossible to make a decision for fear of what may result. Are you saying all this effort was for naught? No, you're saying that. I'm saying that while the Ouroboros Ouzo might not give you a clear-cut path that you had hoped for, nor is it entirely useless. For example, quite small decisions in your immediate future, ones that you consider as a matter of course, may lead you to the fates that you have seen. Not all are so bad. I do not particularly wish to be a woman. Yet we seemed quite reconciled to it. That is by the by. He checked his watch. There's little time left. The lesson from today is that we tread a path that is unusual rather than unremittingly deadly. You have had some warnings. Be on your guard against the ones where you end up dead and buried, dead and wandering around, or a solicitor. Well, what about the morphine addiction? Yes, the man said. That as well, I suppose, but also remember the ones where you were happy. I do not do what I do to be happy, said Johannes Cabal. You can't lie to me, said Johannes Cabal. Suddenly, he was alone once more. He had been so startled by the first appearance that Cabal had not entirely sensed the change in his perceptions brought on by the Ouzo. When the change faded from him now, however, he was entirely aware of it. The prickling at the back of his neck, as countless potentials elbowed their way into the actual, was gone. He could see the truth he had discovered within and from himself. The liquor was a trap. He could see that now. It would have removed his ability to take risks if he had let it. Yet he had given himself wise counsel. He was the captain of his own fate, just as he had always been. It was good to know it for a fact, and to see some of the rocks that lay in the gloomy ocean of the yet undone before him. He rose, eager to be on his way, eager to be back in his laboratory and working once more. Halfway to the door, he faltered and looked back. In the chair that faced the door was the slightest shadow of a man. It looked nonplussed, perhaps by some startling revelation. Cabal considered walking out just to see what might happen, but decided not to. After all, one can only tempt fate so far. Johannes Cabal sat in a chair whose back was to the door, and he waited. And that was Ouroboros Ouzo. That was one of my favorite ones. A long spoon is quite a bit longer. But yeah. You liked it? That one's one of my favorite ones. I just like the way it's written. He's like, okay, how did that happen? She's like, it's complicated. He's like, no, for real, how? Everything else, he's like, okay, so if I drink that, I die, right? And then, but the one time he's a woman, he's just like, what? What did I do to get... Because it's not an alternate universe. It's just the same universe. It's just if he did something slightly different. So I could see him like sitting there and rationalizing. He's like, no, what did I just say and or do that made me a woman? What did I do? Can I post the last paragraph in the redacted? I mean, sure. Yeah, I can do that. But we also have a whole other story. This one's quite a bit longer, and also it has a pretty important character that's going to come up later. Technically, you don't have to read this to read the book, but it makes it more enjoyable from a certain perspective, to me at least. It does. I don't know about you. Maybe you'll hate it. I don't know. But you haven't hated anything that I've done so far, so we'll see. I wish it would show up. What was going on there? Why is it? Sorry, the formatting has gone off on the laptop. Okay, yeah. Anyway. Oh, that sounds awesome. That sounds delicious. You didn't get to hear the last part. Oh, okay. Yeah, I can post it. I might be able to post it now. I'll see. We'll see. We'll see. Hold on. Ooh. I don't normally get on Discord on my laptop. Ooh. But I can't do it on my phone because I'll end this live. So I'll see if I can get it on my laptop and I'll post it really quick. Oh God, log in. Oh no. I don't remember. Oh no. This is bad. This is so bad. I don't remember how I got on here in the first place. I've never logged out, so I've never had to figure it out. Oh, hey, that was it. Okay, good. I know my information. Stop. Okay, got it. Right. Please don't give me the walkthrough. Got it. Okay, don't give me the walkthrough of bullcrap right now. Okay, got it. It's like, do you know how to do the stuff? You can click this to do the things. And I'm like, yeah. Shut up. Stop. I will put it in general. And then no, you're okay. It's in between stories. No. Stop. Maybe I can just... I don't know if it'll let me, though. Oh, man. It doesn't like it when you fucking do anything on here. It has, like, very specific ways of, like, preventing you from sharing anything. Like, when you take a screenshot of a page, it'll show blank because it's a book and you purchased it and you can't lend it out. And, like, it has, like, you can't select text. It won't let you. I wonder if I can... Hold on. So I'm unclear if I can do that. I might just have to wait and type it out for you later. Because it won't let me do anything. Hold on. I hate the trackpad. Yeah, it won't let me do that. I might just have to type it out later. It's not a website. It's not a website. It's an app. It's through Barnes & Noble, like specifically Barnes & Noble. And they have any screen clipping tool, they invalidate. Like you can't open it while the app is open. And if you take a screenshot of anything, the page that you screenshotted will just be shown as black. It's to prevent you from lending. Like you can't... I don't know. They don't want you sharing it unless, like, it's like you can send someone like a preview, or there's like a lending, but it's like time based, and you can only have it for like 13 days or something. But you can only do that with books that you've bought. Well, the thing is on the phone, they don't have that problem, but I can't access it on my phone until after the live. I think I can screenshot it on my phone because they don't have the same mechanism to prevent you from doing it on phones. But I can't do it on the live because then I'm going to end the live. And I was like, I can do this before we start the next story, and I'm having trouble. Because I forgot that was a thing until I went to go clip it. And then I was like, okay, well, I'll just screenshot it. So then I, screenshotted it, print screen, and then it just turned up black. And I was like, hold on. Hold on. I forgot this was a problem. And then I remembered that I've always consistently had problems doing this because it's through Barnes & Noble. So I might just either have to wait until after the live and clip it. So sorry. I'm sorry. But that is one of my favorite ones, and then A Long Spoon is my other favorite one, and we're going to do both of those tonight. If you're game for it. Lady Aoife made it. I was worried you weren't going to be here. I'll put it in the redacted after the live, so that way you can see it. Because it's kind of just really annoying that none of these were, like, they could have made a separate book with all of the short stories in it, but they didn't. They didn't do that. They were all published separately, but they also were just never published in any hard copy at all, so you can't, anyway, it's really annoying. Ah, sweet. Right? What is going on? Damn, you booked it. Yeah, put them in an anthology. It's all the same author. Just, it's fine. It's fine. I'm not upset about it or anything. Discord. Great. Now I have Discord open on this laptop and it's going off. What are you... I'm so worried about you guys. No. It would make absolute sense. No, you're good. Oh my god. Oh no. Don't blow up my Discord while I'm on the live. I do this for you guys. Don't blow up my spot right now. Yeah, why would you do this? I'm gonna shut it down. I'm gonna shut it down. I swear to shit. I will. Oh my god. Ooh, a kitty. Okay, sorry. No, we're not talking about it. No. Oh no. Oh no. You guys. No. No. I think what we're gonna do is we're gonna just close this window. And that's what we're gonna do. So it's gone now. So you can make Discord go off, but it doesn't matter now. I closed it. I don't know what y'all are saying, and I don't care. So, look, if y'all'd rather dick around on Discord, you can do that. You can leave if you wanna. You can go dick around on Discord if that's what you're gonna do. I'll read by myself. I don't care. Both is good. Why not both? I don't know how y'all have two things running. Well, I guess you don't have a whole rig up here. You don't have a whole rig and your phone is one place halfway across the room and your laptop's over here and you don't have that problem. So I guess that's why I'm like, how do y'all have more than one thing open? And y'all are just flip-flopping between them on your phones. You're just chilling there. And I gotta, like, have one thing running the entire goddamn time. That's the problem. You have a laptop and two phones. And I normally wouldn't even choose to have my laptop. If I had physical copies of these, this laptop would not be off. It's just throwing off my lighting. Look at this half of my face compared to this half of my face. This is a problem. This is a problem. There was a cat. Someone posted a cat. I mean, that's not, like, strange. We post cats all the time. Am I pleased with the cat? Yes. Yes, I am. So cute. Okay. Even my background on my laptop is a cat. Everything's a cat. I made a mistake of I had to get mice for my snake. And I went to the PetSmart the other day and some lady was fucking dicking around at the counter for like 30 minutes talking about a fucking gecko terrarium. And I was just like standing in line and getting like super, super bummed. And normally when I go in places, I know what I want. I get that thing. I leave immediately. I don't shop. I don't walk around. I don't like knowing what shit. I don't dick around. I know what I'm doing there. I know what I go for. Okay. And so I go to the back, get my mice, come up the front, and then I'm just standing there for like 10 minutes. And I was like, this fucking take fucking forever. And I was the only other one in there, but like, I guess they were like, oh, we don't have to hurry because there's only one other fucking person behind us. Anyway, so I did the thing that I never do because I can't, because I get real sad and then I want a cat, and I went and looked at all the cats, and there was a cat named Breakfast, and he's my baby. I want him so bad, and I came home and I was like, can we get another cat? Dave was like, no, we don't have room for another cat. And I'm like, but he looks so sad. fucking Dave's like, no, we can't. We can't. And I was like, we get rid of the dog, get 2 cats. He's like, we're not getting rid of the dog. I want Breakfast so bad. He looks so sad. I just want to help him. His name is Breakfast. Okay. Breakfast! His name is Breakfast. He's a black cat. They never get adopted. Dude, there was an orange cat. His name was Frank, though. I want Breakfast.
No, you'll have to take Pond instead.
I'll take Pond. Yeah, give me Pond.
I heard you yelling about Breakfast, and I knew what you meant.
You knew what I meant. I'm like, I don't want Breakfast. I want the cat Breakfast. So I got Pond. Pond's gonna right on top of the microphone. There's a load of monster in here.
Is that what both of those were?
Yeah, that's why they were so heavy.
Okay. No, and it was instant.
Everybody's like, Dave, we need Breakfast.
That's the same brand of Instamorph I have.
Yeah, I'm gonna make teeth. I'm gonna make teeth with the Instamorph.
I know how to use it. I'll help.
Awesome. Group project. Don't walk on my laptop. Please, no. Don't do that. I have the thing pulled up. You want to lay in a box? I have so many boxes for you to peruse. Box? There's boxes. You can hop in this one. Want to hop in it? You can hop in it. Here. I'll turn it on its side easier. That one's bigger. Jump in that one's bigger. You can curl up in the box. Where's your Satan toy that you were fighting with Bella over? I could put that in the box for you later. I could put more catnip on it and you can curl up with your Satan toy in the box and zone out. Does that sound like fun? Yeah. Good kitten. Sorry. Breakfast and pond. Dad shows up with breakfast and Dave's like, I said no. Like, he'll be so mad. $900. Vote for breakfast as vice president. He was just like, we don't have space for another cat. I was like, but hear me out. I hate the dog. And he's like, no. He's like, no, don't do that. I was like, I want another cat. Breakfast looks sad. Breakfast looks sad. His cage is too big for it. And that's why I wanted breakfast, because he's a big old black cat. And I feel like they'd be best friends. Breakfast and pond, 2024. Yeah. Pond's chilling with the boxes. She likes the boxes. Anyway, that was my struggle. I'd vote. Yeah. But yeah, that was my struggle this week, because I went to PetSmart and I looked at the cats, and I always make a deal with myself to not look at the cats, because then I'm just going to get upset. I'm going to want another cat. I'm going to be sad. And Dave's going to say no. And so I just don't torture myself with it. And then, but this lady was just taking a fucking dick ear. Like, so I have this size terrarium, and like, they said that if it's this big, there's a dirt, I don't know. Something about a dinosaur hat. And then, no, that was a different conversation. I don't know. I overhear people all the time, and I shouldn't, and then I just disregard the information because I don't care. And then they sort of get all mixed up together. I'm not sure if there was a dinosaur helmet involved. Anyway, I was taking fucking like a dick ear, so I was like, fuck this. I'm going to go do something that I want to do, because I left my phone in the car, because I thought I'm just going to run in and run back out. Like, it's going to take me 5 minutes or less. Like, I don't need to take my phone. I know what I'm going to get. I'll be right back out. And then I wasn't. So I didn't have anything to do, and I got mad. So I looked at the cats. And breakfast made me sad. Okay. What? What is happening? Silver briefcase full of monster. What is happening? Ask Dave what we need to get off the list to get breakfast. I don't think it works that way. I don't think he can be bought. He has a lot of integrity, unfortunately, and I don't know if we're going to be able to do that. I don't know if that'll work. Bribery. Everybody's like, yes, bribe Dave. Everybody bribe Dave. Like, I love how everybody's just settled on this plan, and like, I don't think it's going to work. I mean, I'll ask, but everyone has a price. Fuck, damn. Maybe I shouldn't have brought this up. But my online Survivor game records show. Oh no. Oh shit. It's okay. I would sell all of you down the river for breakfast. I just want to make that clear. I didn't know they were... And that makes it better? No, I'm joking. I'm joking. I absolutely would sell everyone down the river for breakfast. Everybody who knows me in person is like, yeah. What did I say years ago? I said something immediately I was like, oh, I would sell all of you out for a bag of hot Cheetos right now, or something like that. And then everybody was like, yeah. It's because I expect betrayal, so I will cut a deal with almost anyone. Okay? And that's it. That's all I had to say. There was no follow-up. We're just becoming less coherent, if that is at all possible. Any new person who's in here, who's witnessing this, I'm apologizing. I don't know who you are. I don't know if you're here. I don't know if you left about the time that we started rating cat currency for individuals. But if you're here, just know we're always like this. Get out while you still can. You've betrayed us. Crimson. Pond. Come through the box obstacle course. I'm sorry. They're everywhere. Come on. Wanna say hi? Wanna say hi before you leave? Before you inevitably leave? Whoop, not on the keyboard. Whoop. Wouldn't you like to have a best friend named Breakfast? Wouldn't you? She loves me a lot, just so you know. Yeah. Belly. Not on the laptop. You can lay down. Here, I'll move the laptop. You can lay right here. You lay down wherever you want. And I'll just take this. Oh, she found the crinklies on the monster case. Okay, Discord has proof of me with a cat right now. It can't be Kinsey's cat. Quit using Kinsey's cat as your... Whoa. Hey. Whoa. Hey. Whoa. It's not your cat. Yeah, thank you, Ray. No. Please. Okay. Yeah. Lay over there. Please not on my keyboard. She's trying to lay on my keyboard. Oh, don't worry about it. To quote a certain someone. Yeah, don't worry about it. Everything's fine here. You left, and we took care of ourselves accordingly, like adults, and comported ourselves with sympathy and compassion for others in this group. And we definitely did not devolve into cat capitalism and profile Swiftblood on their preference for dogs. We definitely did not do that, is what I'm saying. We have respectfully interacted this entire time as a group of individuals dedicated to experiencing the joys of literacy together. And that's all that's happened, really, is you've missed nothing but respectful discourse. Ooh, no. My cable situation is, shut up. They're gonna know. Maybe. If you rat us all out, you fucking snitch. Anyway, like I said, respectful discourse to everyone involved. Damn it. Everything's devolving over here. My cable situation is getting worse. I had to relocate everything because Pawn's laying down. And I wanted to give Pawn the space to lay down that was not my keyboard. You don't believe me. When have I ever proven to, be dishonest? Man, we need to read about murders. You know what? I think this next story will help foment that, actually. That'll fill the void nicely. There's some murder. Sort of. There's a kind of murder. There's some things. I do want to warn you, if you are sensitive to, it's not really that bad, honestly. It just gets a little spicy. Spicier than a Johannes story you would think would. It's mostly implied. It does get a little bit in a way graphic, but not obscenely so. So I just want to let you know that it's not too bad. It's really not too bad. There are a couple of off-color jokes, but I think we'll be fine. I just want to let you all know, if you have a minor and in the room or whatever, a kid. I know some people listen to this with their kids, and it's very calming. They're not so blatantly inappropriate. I think a lot of the jokes would sail over smaller children's heads, so if that's what you're worried about. But it doesn't have any really graphic scenes, but it does go into some detail in some ways that makes it kind of weird, but it's a fun story, and if you like demons, I think you'll like it, and it's called A Long Spoon. And we get to meet a new character in this. Could I just mail prints of the stories to your P.O. box? Yeah, sure. So looking at Redacted, I still don't believe you at all. Oh man, I don't even know what's in there. I don't even know what they've been doing. Any choices that were made in the Redacted were made without my knowledge or consent. And I wasn't really part of that conversation. Are we ready for a long spoon? Do you want murder, sort of? Chaos, because we can. All right. All right, here's the long spoon. Johannes Cabal wasn't used to being quite so overwhelmed in the presence of a woman. But overwhelmed he was, and a question as impertinent as it was pressing forced itself from his lips. "Madam," he said, knowing enough to be embarrassed by the asking, "forgive me for being so forward, but might I inquire, and you must feel in no way constrained to answer if you do not wish to do so, might I inquire, are you exothermic or endothermic? Your metabolism, that is." The lady in question regarded him with coquettish amusement. If she had possessed a fan, she would surely have fluttered it. She did not, however, answer. "Poikilothermic, perhaps?" ventured Cabal. "Poikilothermic," she repeated slowly, each syllable divorced from its neighbor by a full second of silence. She smiled. I like you, she said. You're funny. I don't think I've ever met a funny human before. Cabal hesitated. He wasn't used to being found comedic either. I assure you, madam, it is in no way my intention to... But she wasn't listening. Poink, she said, savoring the sound. Poink, poink, poink. This was not going the way most summonings of a supernatural entity usually went. He had some experience in that direction and knew them to involve a great deal of preparation, a precise understanding of the ritual's ontological aspects and patience. In this case, however, he had barely begun the ritual before the concentric summoning and warding circles were filled with a great deal of... He wasn't quite sure what. He had summoned creatures from other planes, lost souls and demons in the past, but this was the first time he had summoned a devil, which is to say a demon with more autonomy than the common herd. The choice had been forced upon him by circumstance. If he summoned some common or garden demon, it might feel beholden to report his business to Satan, and that would never do. He and Satan were not entirely sympathetic to one another these days. If Satan maintained a Christmas card list, which is not as unlikely as it seems, then Cabal was surely off of it. A devil, then, a reasonably free agent that did its acts of wickedness and subversion of its own bat, rather than kowtowing to the great Lucifer and his menagerie of generals in the lowest ring of hell. Johannes Cabal had gone through his extensive library, harvesting the true names of any such things he could find, and then, by deduction and lot, settled upon one rarely summoned, and therefore likely more tractable to the wiles of a cunning mortal such as himself. The disadvantage of such a method was that he had found no indications whatsoever as to the nature of the devil commonly, a very relative term, in this circumstance, called Xerenia, though whose true name was mottled with glottal stops, apostrophes, and unavoidably small sprays of saliva. Cabal had therefore duly glottally stopped, apostrophized, and spat his way through the summoning and been rewarded with the diabolical manifestation that now stood before him, going, Poink! Cabal had embraced for all manner of hideous forms, anything from a body built from maggots to an evil-minded shade of pink, but he was slightly nonplussed by Xerenia's actual appearance. She was undoubtedly female, and probably very attractive in a shallow, really rather beautiful sort of way. Her hair was short and red, her skin pale, her form gamine, her countenance open and attractive, her bosom pleasant, but without being overbearing, and her legs, well, there were rather too many of them, by a factor of 4. From the waist down, Xerenia was a great spider. Her abdomen was smooth and black, her legs arched and powerful in appearance within the articulated chitin. Cabal had chosen to summon her in what appeared to be, from the outside, a shuttered metalwork business and a railway arch. In reality, it was one of hell's sundry back doors, known as Kemch, amongst those who tabulated such rarities. Beyond the breeze block and corrugated steel wall was a cavern that in no way correlated with the dimensions of the arch in which it was based. The cavern was some 20 yards wide at its narrowest point, the outer entrance sealed by the inconsonant urban wall, but the inner trailed off to a tunnel that pitched in a slow descent. Torches burned eternally in sconces there, fueled by the souls of hedge fund managers and other such low creatures. Given all the space, Cabal had decided to allow a larger than usual circle for the summoning, and the serendipity of that action he now appreciated. The torchlight glimmered from the dark armor of Xerenia's body and legs, and it occurred to him that she was not an exact analog of a true spider. There was something mechanical about the abdomen and limbs that made them perhaps even more disconcerting than simply being an unfeasibly massive arachnid. Her forebody would have made her stand at least as tall as Cabal's 6 feet, and 1 inch had she been possessed of more conventional legs. The spider-like aspect of her made her stand a good yard taller than him, and the tips of her legs circumscribed the inner edge of the broad summoning circle in all its 5 yards easily. Pleek, said the great Spider-Woman devil. She sighed at such fun. What's this all about, then? Which particular whim would you like me to fulfill, O mortal? I abjure thee, O spirit, to be bound by this covenant, said Cabal in a firm voice that brooked no shenanigans. One had to be firm with demons, and he presumed devils. By the power of the great Adonai, The devil was looking at him in astonishment. Are you trying to bind me? You are, aren't you? You're trying to bind me. The expression gave way to a flirtatious wink. You naughty boy. There is no trying about it, madam, said Cabal. You're not leaving that circle until I have guarantees as to your obedience and my safety. Well, here's the thing, darling. You don't mind me calling you darling, do you? Without waiting for Cabal's opinion on the matter, she continued. If I were a demon, you'd be doing the exact right thing. They are all mixed up in fealties and duties to one another. Terribly futile, I know, but it seems to work for them. So, you call in favors from the higher-ups to gain power over those lower in the chain, yes? The rub is, I'm a free agent. That's what a devil is, at least by my understanding. The upshot of it is that the great Adonai can whistle for all I care. You can't bind me. Sorry. She shrugged and seemed genuinely saddened by events. Cabal was nonplussed. His plan depended on having a devil as an agent. He could not see how to proceed if such a simple prerequisite was unavailable to him. Oh, he said, and sat on a boulder. This is disappointing. Zerenia shrugged sympathetically once more, but offered no suggestions. I don't entirely understand how devils are bound in that case, said Cabal. If there is no fulcrum upon which to bend your obedience, how is it done? I have read of devils helping sorcerers many times. Ah, said the devil, raising her index finger to nail the important point Cabal had inadvertently raised. Did you hear what you just said? Helping. It's just a thought. But you could always try asking nicely. Nicely? Cabal shook his head wearily. Madam, I'm tired and dismayed. Do not mock me. I'm very much not in the mood. I'm not mocking you, sweetheart, she said, slightly offended. I'm being perfectly serious. Look, you want a guarantee. A devil's word is her bond, just as much as it is for demons. We're far more reliable that way than humans, yet we're the evil ones. She spread her hands at such injustice. Cabal found his interest piqued. You mean negotiation? Exactly that, Zerenia smiled pleasantly. Give me what I want, and you can have what you want. Which includes my promise that I shall not hurt you, enchant you, or otherwise ruin your day. Cabal rose and walked to the edge of the circle. And what would you want? The devil looked off into the middle distance in deep thought, her expression that of a child formulating a letter to Father Christmas. Well, she said after some moments of consideration, I haven't been summoned in a very long time, and I'm bored. Whatever you want me to do, it better be interesting. Also, it would be lovely to kill a few people. So, yes, those are my demands, murder and fun. Cabal looked up at the spider devil Zerenia and crossed his arms. Madam, he said slowly, I believe we may have a deal. It all began, as so many everyday tales do, with the quest for immortality. Cabal's own interest was largely academic. Life was offered impetuous by its very brevity, in his opinion. To take away the briefness of life was to rob it of necessity, and so immortality was simply a breathing death. On the other hand, Immortality necessarily depended on the manipulation of vital forces, and the manipulation of vital forces was a subject close to the fist of flint he called a heart. While those who historically claimed to have happened upon the secret of eternal life had usually let themselves down badly by subsequently dying, there were certain cases that the fine-tooth comb of Cabal's researches had turned up that deserved further investigation. One such, Cabal informed Xerenia, who upon a nest of folded legs listened with gratifying attention, was the Chinese sorcerer Luan Da, who lived in the time of the Han Dynasty. Luan Da has not weathered the waves of history well. Since his life in the 2nd century before Christ, he has been lucky to escape a sentence that did not also contain the word charlatan or fraud. He was attached to the court of Emperor Wu for the express purpose of making contact with supernatural entities that would furnish him, and thence the emperor, with the secret of living forever. During a retreat in which he was to make such contact, he was shadowed by a spy of the emperor who observed the great sage walking alone at a time when he would later claim to have been conferring with spirits. Wu was profoundly unamused on hearing this, and Luan Da was executed horribly for his perfidy by being sawn in two at the waist. This, the history books tell us, and as far as they go, they are correct. The unspoken assumption, however, is that Luan Da must have been a charlatan, because clearly there is no such thing as magical immortality. To the mind of Johannes Cabal, such a conclusion was fallacious. There was only one way to be sure, and that was to ask Luan Da. 12 weeks beforehand, Cabal had organized a little seance, having first polished his Hokkien and Tang dialects so he would have a fighting chance of speaking with the dead man's spirit. These preliminaries had proved unnecessary. He could not find Luan Da's spirit to converse with it. This in itself was not unusual. Most dead people enjoy the taciturnity of eternity and don't care to chat. At first he assumed this was the case, but subsequent ventures with Lot and Circle confused him. To borrow a modern analogy, calling Luan Da did not result in a ringing tone via the celestial switchboard that went unanswered, but instead admitted to nothing more than a dead line. It is possible for the dead to be entirely unreachable or undetectable in the afterlife, but it is usually because their souls have been consumed by powerful otherworldly entities, and this is a rare happenstance. Why this should happen to Luan Da exercised Cabal's curiosity, and he proceeded with a program of experiments to find the truth of the affair. It was as he embarked on these experiments that he noted the small, odd things were befalling him. As a necromancer of some little infamy, he was not unused to small, odd things befalling him, but these were odd even by his lights. First had been an attempted murder by crows. He had been making his way back to his house from the nearby village when a parliament of perhaps 50 of the animals had decamped from a stand of ash trees and done their level best to peck him to death. It was only through the intercession of the crow that lived by his own house and that fondly believed itself to be Cabal's pet, it was alone in this belief, that the flock broke off its attack to indulge in a great deal of cawing at one another before repairing back to the ash trees to consider their behavior. Cabal evolved the impression that his aberrance was confusing even to them. He retired to his house to cast some bacon runs to his unexpected benefactor and to dab at his wounds with iodine. That was odd, but the next incident was extraordinary. Cabal had been running a hot bath and withdrawn to his room to recover a dressing gown. On returning to the bathroom, his sense of smell told him that all was not well, and his stinging eyes only served to reinforce this. He closed the taps and looked with dismay at the disintegrating remains of his loofah floating part in the bath water. He left the room quickly, coming back only when he was swathed in protective clothing, rubber gauntlets, and an army surplus gas mask. Brief investigation demonstrated that the bath water was no longer anything of the sort, but was now highly acidic. Laboratory testing demonstrated it to be nitric acid of distressingly high molarity. Cabal was intrigued to know which of the many agencies that would delight in his death would visit such an outrage upon his loofah, and began a process of deductive reasoning. While his list of enemies was extraordinary, they mainly cleaved to a markedly Puritan sensitivity with regards to magic. Indeed, it was Cabal's dabbling in magic that had earned their opprobrium in the first place. That and the grave robbing. Enemies with magical skills were far fewer, and those capable of penetrating the defensive wards about his home brought the short list down to none at all. Deduction having failed, Cabal was forced to conclude that this was some new enemy, and one of great puissance. He wondered what he might have done to aggravate such a person, and done so recently, when the only thing he was currently engaged upon was the hunt for a Chinese sorcerer dead for as near as, damn it, 2 millennia. The realization dropped upon him like a wet mammoth. "Oh," he had said, "it's like that, is it?" "So, you're saying that this dead Chinese fellow disintegrated your loofah?" said Xerenia. "I am," said Cabal, and he did so with the intention that I would be scrubbing my back with it at the time. If I hadn't taken a minute to fetch my dressing gown, I would have been in the bath when the water was transmogrified to hot acid. "You have to admit, this Luan Da has a bit of style about him." "I'm not here to award points for originality," said Cabal. "I'm trying to find out why he's being so damnably defensive." "Mysterious, isn't it?" "Well, darling, it's interesting enough. But what about the killing?" "Yes. I was going to ask you about that. Why specifically do you wish to murder? You don't strike me as especially cruel." "Oh, I'm not," she said, seemingly irked at the imputation. "Demons and imps, that lot may go in for the petty sadism, but we devils have a more refined taste." "Do you indeed?" "We do indeed, yes. To be exact, I'm hungry. I can last a long time on a small snack, but a girl likes to have a bit of an indulgent blowout now and again." "You intend to eat them?" "Not exactly," she replied, and smiled winsomely. "I cannot promise that there will be opportunities for killing." "Aww." "But there is a good likelihood for souls for the devouring, if that's what your intent truly is." "Good enough," said Xerenia. "I'll trust you. You have an honest face." "Oh, splendid," said Cabal. "I feel so very validated now." "Super," said the devil, impervious to irony. "Now, if you'd like to let me out of this circle—" "Not so fast, madam. I shall need your word and bond before that happens." He produced a notebook and fountain pen from his inside breast pocket, selected a fresh page, and proceeded to write. Xerenia wrinkled her nose. "You're not writing up a contract, are you? How boring. Can't I just say I'll help you? I won't harm you. I won't look for any of those boring loopholes demons are so obsessive about, and we can just trot along and have an adventure." Cabal's pen paused. He slowly looked up at the devil from beneath the brim of his hat. "Guide's honor," she said, raising 2 fingers together in a benediction of sorts. "You will forgive me, but one should use a long spoon when one sups with the devil." He returned his attention to his writing. The spider devil considered this for a moment, her brow furrowed. "Why?" The pen paused again. "Why what?" "Why would you use a long spoon when supping with the devil?" "It's a metaphor. It simply means one should be cautious." "I know it's a metaphor, darling. I'm not a complete nincompoop. I don't understand it, though. Why are you feeding the devil?" Cabal could see he wasn't going to get much peace to write the document, and wished he had prepared one earlier. "I'm not feeding the devil, I'm..." "Oh." I hadn't thought of that before. Do your metaphorical elbows not work very well or something? I just don't see how a long spoon keeps you away from whichever devil you happen to be supping with. I think perhaps the idea is that both the devil and the subject are supping from the same pot. The same pot? Said Xerenia with a great astonishment. Would you sup from the same pot as a devil? Really? No, admitted Cabal. I wouldn't. I don't think that a long spoon's going to help. Cabal frowned, then ripped the page from his notebook before tearing it up. Guides on her? He asked, carelessly letting the fragments fall. Xerenia raised her index and middle fingers together in a salute of International Association of Girl Guides and Girl Scouts, a worthy organization that would doubtless be collectively horrified by its use by such an entity in such a situation. Guides on her, she said solemnly. Dib, dib, dib. Not without misgivings, Cabal walked to the edge of the circle and scrubbed out part of the perimeter with his foot. I presume now is when you leap out, call me a foolish mortal, and kill me? Xerenia glared at him. I dibbed, she said in outraged tones. My apologies, madam, said Cabal. You did indeed dib. He gestured to the tunnel mouth. Shall we go? The tunnel reverberated to the sound of one gentleman walking in the company of 4 ladies wearing heels. This was, coincidentally, the sound created by one necromancer walking in the company of a spider devil. The latter paused and sniffed the air. Where exactly are we heading, Johannes? Asked Xerenia, using his forename. Calling it his Christian name was never going to be accurate, nor wise. Lightly and without permission. I smell... She inhaled again. Is that chaos? Cabal stopped further down the tunnel and looked back at her. It is. You have acute senses. Well, I am a devil. Certain things... She regarded him pensively and a little apprehensively. I'm beginning to get the impression that I should have asked a few more questions before agreeing to this expedition. Questions like, why exactly do you want me along? And also, where are we going? Cabal nodded. Those would have been worse questions to ask. I'm a little impetuous at times. I shall ask them now. I need you as a guide and protection. Simply that. That's sensible, given that we're entering hell. Not that I'm so very familiar with the abyss. That is where we're going, isn't it? Nowhere else smells like that. We are, said Johannes Cabal, and no more. Hell, said Xerenia, is an orderly place. Rules and regulations, hierarchies, and so forth. The abyss is a pit of chaos. We don't like it very much because of that. Terrible place for a picnic. My point is, your Luanda simply can't be in there. The chaos would have destroyed him a long since. Very true, madam. Please call me Xerenia. If he was exposed to pure chaos for any length of time, his soul would have become attenuated and eventually dispersed. There is, however, one place... No! Seeing a devil distressed is a rare occurrence. We can't go there. If Lucifer finds out... I thought you were a free spirit, Madam Xerenia. The infernal embodiment of footloose and fancy-free. That does not give me carte blanche to go running around in Lucifer's greatest mistake. It is absolutely forbidden. Is it? Cabal asked lightly. Yes! Well, No, not exactly forbidden. He didn't actually say that, but he dumped it in the abyss, and his displeasure was very... Hell is an orderly place, said Cabal. Rules and regulations. Do any such rules exist to forbid entrance to the abyss? No, but nobody would be insane enough. Do any regulations declare pandemonium off limits? No, they don't. She smiled suddenly. Can't really complain then, can he? Assuming he even finds out, I certainly shan't be telling him. They strolled along the tunnel a little further in a companionable silence. Then Zarenya said, I've never actually been in Pandemonium, darling. You realize that, don't you? It was dropped into the abyss before I was even born. Cabal frowned. I shall admit some familiarity would have been useful, but that is a small matter. I am more perplexed at the idea of a devil being born. I had it in my mind that you and your kin are essentially eternal. Oh, no. For the originals, the fallen angels, yes, and there are a lot of them, but the rest of us respond from the sins of the world, manifested first as scraps of corrupt souls. Lemuras. You can call them that, but it always makes me think of those sweet things with big eyes that live in Madagascar. Lemurs. Lemurs, then, and slowly we gain form and personality. Then, once you were human? Once, she smiled, but her expression was distant. She took a deep breath and smiled a little more naturally. So that's us. Turning into rather an educational outing, isn't it? Anyway, onwards, pandemonium ho! The tunnel wound on and on and on. Zarenya had offered Cabal a ride on her back, but he had declined and marched in an icy silence for some time after that. It was not the first time he had walked to hell, but previous journeys had involved a more traditional approach through the plane of limbo, thence to Hell's gatehouse, and an argument with the gatekeeper. This was of no use on this occasion for 3 reasons. Firstly, going in through the front door would certainly bring him to the attention of Satan, and as mentioned earlier, this was to be avoided. Secondly, the last gatekeeper Cabal had dealt with was apparently still missing after losing quite a muscular argument with Cabal, and so Cabal could not be sure of unveiling his way through in any case. Thirdly, the abyss was not accessible through the workaday 9 rings of Hell Argature. The chaos of the abyss is dangerous, and Hell is more alert to health and safety than one might appreciate. After all, how can one enjoy an eternity of damnation if one has been torn to wisps and tatters by the auction of unbridled chaotic energies? Thus, the route he had chosen was more in the nature of a maintenance access, should chaos ever need maintenance, which seems unlikely. The tunnel was therefore obscure and untraveled, which suited Cabal very well indeed. It was also, however, unrelenting, and the 4th time Zarenya offered to carry him, he reluctantly agreed. He was reminded as to the reasons for his previous refusals when the act turned out to be every bit as embarrassing for him as he had expected. The devil lowered herself that he might clamber up behind her, but the curve of her abdomen meant that the only place he might reasonably sit was directly behind her very human forebody, legs splayed out to either side. "Hold on," she instructed him. Cabal did not hold on. "Whatever is the matter?" she asked. "Madam," he replied, "the only handy surface available for holding on is your torso." "Yes?" "Do you think you could possibly wear more clothes?" She looked over her shoulder at him, frowning. "Such as? Socks?" I was thinking more of the human part of you. Your entire wardrobe seems to consist of no more than a tiny strip of cloth.
Do you like it?
She said, misinterpreting him a little willfully.
I think it's pretty.
Its prettiness is not in dispute.
It's called a bandeau. That's French.
Which in no way surprises me. Finally, with an expression of stoicism to rival a Spartan, and having pulled his gloves on firmly, he embraced her midriff.
There,
said Xerenia.
Isn't that nice?
Cabal made no reply. They set off once again in silence. Presently, Cabal checked his watch to see how long they had been traveling, and was bemused to find his watch told him Dolomite. And then, on subsequent rechecks, ampersand, elongate, and Presbyterian o'clock. Reality is becoming obstreperous, he said. We grow close to the abyss. They were indeed. 2 and a hippodrome turns of the tunnel later, they were standing on a vertiginous outcrop the shape of the underside of Elgar's nose, the tunnel exit being the shape of Elgar's screaming mouth, and the rock formations below being Elgar's invert features. Off and around them, the dark gulf of the abyss boomed and echoed with inchoate, everything ricocheting from the steep walls into the edge of the precipice were inexpertly carved the words, Nietzsche was here. Kills me every time. Okay.
Bracing, isn't it?
Said Xerenia, breathing in deeply as if on the seafront at Skegness.
Nice to visit, but I wouldn't like to live here.
Yeah, said Cabal, rendered irrational and piscine by the environment. Xerenia sighed.
Mortals. You just can't take the slightest collapse in laws of causality, can you? Come along, fishman. Let's get you somewhere more probable.
In the looming shadows, amidst forms too chaotic to be merely random, she spied an edge, straight and true. It was impossible to gauge any scale to the thing. It could as easily have been an inch long as a league, but there was only one regular form within the abyss, so she leapt without hesitation towards it, trailing a silken thread behind her as they fell. She, a model of concentration, he, singing about sausages. Through the abyss they plummeted, or possibly rose, the spider devil and her necromancer cum halibut passenger. Xerenia was, it must be admitted, enjoying herself. The very quality of obscurity that Cabal had sought in selecting her had rendered her diabolical life diabolically boring. She would not lower herself to prodding people with pitchforks while they basted in liquid brimstone, but neither was she often summoned. On the rare occasions when some magus or another called upon her, they were never repeat performances. Over the centuries, she had left an intermittent trail of dead magi behind her, more as a matter of nature than any animosity towards them. It was sad, but there it was. Thus, being an enforced shut-in with no hobbies, she had tried the common infernal pastimes of cribbage and macrame, but neither had engaged her enthusiasm. Her own immortality was a burden rather than a boon. Here she was, however, on some desperate mission upon whose particulars she was still a bit vague, abseiling into the abyss in the company of somebody she gathered was on Satan's admittedly voluminous shit list. It was all tremendously exciting, and the nearest thing to fun she'd experienced since the Bishop of Onslow had tried exorcising her from his cathedral in 1737. She'd had one of her little chats with him and then secreted the remains behind the organ pipes where they had lain undisturbed for 3 decades, until an organ mechanic happened upon them. Good times. She set down a leg on the parapet and hooked the tip of around the castellation she found there, drawing herself and her burbling cargo onto the tower top. As she gained a proper footing, Cabal became less fishy by degrees, until he was able to say, "That was not at all enjoyable." "Piff,"
You are adorable, said the devil Xerenia. It's chaos, guys. Pandemonium was surprisingly ordered. Then again, against the backdrop of the abyss, 100 weight of cooked spaghetti thrown onto a ballroom floor would look surprisingly ordered. The point of pandemonium was never chaos, however, even though it had become a byword for it. Back in the days when he was full of pep and his shelf load of management books were shiny and new, Satan had created pandemonium. In those days, Satan regarded himself as something of a pirate captain, which is to say that he saw himself as a nominal leader, generally respected but only turned to for direction in times of crisis. Towards such an egalitarian view intended to demonstrate that God's notoriously hands-on style of obsessive micromanagement was unnecessary and patronizing. Satan built pandemonium as a parliament for his demons. Here they would gather and discuss the issues of the day, develop policies, and enact laws. It was all to be very democratic. Just because he and his fallen angels had been a little uppity in the face of God was no reason to doubt that they would not be able to govern like sensible, thoughtful creatures. Thus, it may be understood how, as prideful an entity as Satan felt when it turned out that you can't fill a large parliamentary building with demons and expect them to behave like a meeting of the quiet society for sensible people. There was drinking, there was animalistic growling and squawking, there was vomiting, there were flows of excrement. Thus far, this was indistinguishable from most parliaments. But it was the refusal to get down to any real work that galled Satan. That and the endless noise. Finally, he admitted to himself, if no one and no thing else, that pandemonium was a dreadful error on his part, strapped the great building to Behemoth's back, and told it to dump the short-lived parliament of hell into the abyss. This Behemoth did, and that was that. Now, pandemonium was the great unmentionable that Cabal kept mentioning. So, this is pandemonium, he mentioned, brushing off his hands in an unconscious test to make sure that they really and truly were no longer fins. It's bigger than I expected. It was approximately twice the size of the British Palace of Westminster, Cabal's only useful guide to roughly how big a parliament should be. Twice as large in all dimensions, including a great spiked tower on one corner. Unlike the St. Stephen's Tower of its earthly equivalent, Pandemonium's great tower was not faced with clock dials, but only with empty gibbets flailing in the chaos storm of the abyss from the ends of the long iron poles. Cabal watched the cages thrash for some moments and then said, "If I know anything about sorcerers, and I do, Luan Da will have made himself comfortable up in there." Xerenia followed his gaze with an expression of mild misgiving. "However can you be sure?" "Sure, I am not, but sorcerers are creatures of habit. Give them a tower to hide in, and they're up the stairs like a ferret up a drain, to borrow a phrase. Towers exert a strange glamour upon sorcerers. Caves, too, but only if a tower isn't handy." "Even on you?" Cabal glanced at her, scowling. "Madam, I have never expressed any desire to take up residence in a tower." "Bet you would if you could, though." Cabal suddenly realized that his laboratory was in the topmost story of a tall house. Not exactly a tower, but still. He coughed. "There's no access directly to the tower from this rooftop. I think if we descend these stairs, we can search forward from there." Presently, Cabal and Xerenia found themselves in a broad corridor overlooking on one side the Parliament building's large courtyard, certainly sufficient to place a full-size football field in the center with a horse racing course around it and enough space left over for 3 or 4 Olympic standard swimming pools. As it was, however, such facilities would have offered a poor afternoon's sport, as there were no ground to speak of. From the great glazed windows they could see the abyss below, and the abyss above, and as Nietzsche warned, it was not wise to look into the abyss for too long, although this was largely because it gave one a screaming headache after a few minutes. Cabal had better things to do than sightsee in any case, and they progressed at a meaningful pace in the direction of the tower. Cabal was walking on his own feet now, and Xerenia politely crept along behind him, although Cabal knew full well she could gallop along gamely on her many legs far faster than any running human could possibly match. There was little to say of the corridor, not least because much of the high-vaulted passage was in a flickering darkness cast partially by the embers of uncertain existence without and partially by flambeaux mounted in shoulder-high sconces along the way. Above them loomed deep darkness, its monstrous architecture occasionally illuminated during lightning flashes outside. The architecture really was monstrous, too. Satan should definitely have hired a decent consultancy. After perhaps half an hour of walking, they reached a corner that surely led to the entrance of the tower. Cabal signaled to Xerenia to wait while he advanced on tiptoes to peek around the corner and gather the lay of the land. To his vast disappointment and irritation, the door to the tower was guarded. Slightly to his consternation, the guard was human, or, he granted, apparently human. Either way, the man was heavily built, wore a suit of Langtang armor and the sort used during the Han period, and stood cradling a huge temple sword in his arms. To be able to do such a thing for long periods was in itself a great feat, and Cabal found the man's likely strength to be a likely stumbling block in the ongoing mission to locate Luan Da, find out if he knew anything of import, and then chastise him for his little pranks involving murderous crows and hot nitric acid. Cabal's spectrum of chastisement began with killing and finished shortly after with killing. It wasn't much of a spectrum when all was said and done. "What's going on?" whispered Xerenia, unable to hide her glee at being out and about. "This is an infiltration, followed by an interrogation, and then, in all likelihood, an execution," said Cabal, also in a whisper. "If you could manage to avoid giving the impression that we're just sneaking off to the pantry to indulge in a midnight feast, this would all feel a little more professional." Xerenia put on the most serious expression she could manage. "What's going on?" she said, half an octave lower. "I can see why you're not a demon," said Cabal. "Discipline doesn't come naturally to you, does it?" She slowly lowered herself until she was more or less at eye level with Cabal. "You must tell me all about discipline the very first chance you get." She was smiling disconcertingly as she said it. Cabal was disconcerted. "Briefly," he said, "there is a guard perhaps 100 yards away. By him is a warning gong. On no account do we want him to strike it. I wonder if shooting him would do the trick." He opened the Gladstone bag he had suspended across his back with a leather belt and looked inside. He withdrew a droopy thing covered in breadcrumbs. "My pistol is transmuted into a fish cake," and failed to transmute back. "You know, I do wonder if chaos can actually be said to be chaotic when it shows an obsession with fish like this." Xerenia did not answer. Cabal looked around to discover that somehow she had gone. Given her size, this was a remarkable disappearance in itself, and he wondered if the storming chaos outside had somehow affected her after all. Given its Piscine orientation, probably turned her into a shower of sardines or some such. This theory he discarded quickly, and then feared that perhaps she had actually gone to engage the guard instead. He braced himself for the booming of the gong the instant the thought struck him, but the alarm was not sounded. Cautiously, he looked back around the corner. The guard had gone. The gong hung unattended and silent. Baffled, Cabal cautiously poked his head out further, but there was still no sign of the guard, nor of Xerenia. He stepped out quietly, but a soft footfall did not presage a horde of guards tumbling through the door, and so he risked another step. By a procession of such steps, he found himself by the tower door soon enough. "Where the blazes are you?" he whispered, which is to say, half-whispered, half-hissed. A sound in the shadowed rafters made him look up, and there he thought he saw a glistening, chitinous form moving. He squinted harder until he could discern what exactly he was looking at. It was, after all, an unusual shape, comprised as it was by two forms. Cabal gave a disgusted snort and turned away. "Du lieber Gott!" "Busy!" called Xerenia from above. "Be with you in a tick. Read a book or something." Cabal walked away a few steps, but there was no getting away from the noises from above. The guard, it could hardly be anyone else, cried out now and then, sometimes with fear, sometimes with ecstasy, sometimes both. He sounded muffled, but as he was partially cocooned in webbing, that was hardly surprising. "Do you think you could hurry it up a bit?" asked Xerenia of her captive. She sounded sympathetic. "Love to dawdle, but on a tight schedule. You know how it is. I'll tell you what, how about I do this?" There was a wet noise, as organic as it was salacious, and the guard cried out one last time. A long cry it was, filled with dark pleasure and diminishing life expectancy. It lasted a full minute, far beyond the normal capacity of human lungs to maintain, Cabal thought. But the guard was in the process of discovering Xerenia had the ability to extend some human capacities far beyond the norm, to quite fatal extremes. Then the cry dwindled and stopped. A moment later, the guard's desiccated corpse, all swathed in web, crashed to the floor near Cabal. Its face was turned towards him, and Cabal could see it was smiling, nor yet in a post-mortem rictus either. Xerenia clicked lightly down the wall and walked to Cabal. She seemed a little sheepish, an impression enforced by the covert little trick she gave the cadaver of the erstwhile beau, enough to send the dried remains skidding off into a dark corner. She smiled awkwardly at Cabal. He looked stonily back. "You're being all judgy, aren't you?" "Well, look, I was peckish, and he was in the way. I mean, really, what's a girl to do?" "I thought," said Cabal with pointed emphasis, "that you said that you don't eat people." "I don't," she said in an outraged tone. Then she smiled a half smile. "Well, only sort of." "I told you it got a little spicy. I told you." "So," said Cabal, "you're a succubus?" It was an unusual conversational gambit, but then the conversation was between a necromancer and a devil as they ascended a winding staircase leading to, in all probability, an undead Chinese sorcerer and his hiding place within the abandoned parliament of hell, tumbling eternity through the stuff of pure elemental chaos, and unusual is a very subjective term. "Succubine," Xerenia corrected him. "I am not familiar with that term." "Succubine is a more general sort of category," she explained. "A method of feeding. The succubi are the examples everyone thinks of, but they're not the only ones, you know." "I know now. There's a whole, I don't know what you call it, a phylum of spiderish demons and devils, but many of them just have venom and enzymes and suck out liquidized innards." She grimaced. "Bit uncouth, if you ask me. Lacks the personal touch." "You're finer you charmer." They continued up the stairs, both women, in theory. "In theory. How does the practice vary?" Well, we end up chatting, and after a while, it just seems impolite to kill them. They walked in silence a little further. Then Zarenia said, "You're wondering how it works, aren't you? How a demi-spider can even mate with a human, or how you absorb their soul?" "Both, an inquisitive boy like you." "Yes, both mechanisms intrigue and perturb me in equal measure." "Mechanisms," he says. "Such a romantic. Well, what say I let you watch the next time I do it?"
"Madam, I am no voyeur."
"It's not voyeurism," she chided him. "It's science." As they climbed, Cabal mentally shrugged off the bantering pleasantries, diverting though they were, and concentrated on the trials to come. The soul of Luanda had gone to considerable trouble to hide in Pandemonium. Why? It seemed unlikely that he had gone to such trouble to avoid the attentions of Satan, not least because he would probably have found himself well regarded and given a position in middle management. Satan was very happy to delegate matters whenever possible. Even if that didn't happen, restructurings in the process of hell meant that it simply wasn't the pit of eternal punishment that it once was. Unless Luanda had a pathological fear of amateur dramatics, groups, card schools, and balloon debates, admittedly with real balloons. It seemed like a lot of trouble to go to, especially since using Pandemonium as a bolt hole would surely earn the wrath of Satan should he ever find out. Yet, here they were, aboard. Cabal had found himself thinking of the edifice as a vessel atop a permanently storming sea rather than as a building. Pandemonium, and it was most definitely inhabited, almost certainly by somebody of Oriental origin, given the armor of the guard they had encountered, speaking of whom.
"Madam, enlighten me. When you have captured your prey and have... How may I put this delicately?"
"Shag them to death."
"Quite. You feed upon the soul, yes?"
"Yes, and a few bodily fluids, but that's more of a matter of personal preference than necessity."
"Lovely," he said, but seemed distracted.
"You seem distracted, sweetie," said Zarenia after some minutes' silence.
"When you killed the guard..."
"Killed makes it sound so sordid."
"You left a body."
"Yes, didn't I just explain all of that? Is my memory going? So sad, and so young, too."
"And pretty." "Madam, please leave your vanity unattended for a moment and consider the facts. You devoured the guard's soul."
Zarenia sighed.
"Yes." "Leaving his corpse."
"His mortal coil, all shook off. Yes, I've done this before, you know." She stopped on the stairs. "Oh, I am a silly." "Yes, darling, I take your point now."
"How, if he were true and made of hell, would he have a coil to shake off?" "Exactly my concern."
"He was alive. Actually alive. Not now. Obviously, he's nothing at all now, apart from the fond memory of a pleasant repast, but he was alive." She looked inquiringly at Cabal as if there were some clever party trick of his. "So, how is it a living man was in hell?"
"It is not," said Johannes Cabal significantly, "without precedent."
"I can't see the old man being very happy about it."
"He wasn't. Nor would he be if he knew I was here again. Still less so if he knew where we were. And least of all were he to discover that Pandemonium contains more living mortals than just myself."
"That guard wouldn't be the only mortal here, then?" "Of course he wouldn't. No, it looks like your sorcerer has brought a retinue with him."
"It also presents the question, why would a dead man need living men as that retinue?"
"Well, Luanda's clearly not dead. That's obvious. Have you really not worked that out, Johannes?"
"I was working up to it," said Cabal. It was supposed to be a rhetorical flourish. "Ah," said Serenia. "Oops. Bad of me. But hold on, what about his, what do you call them? Those things. Humans have them." She fussed as she scoured her memory, then clicked her fingers triumphantly. "I remembered. Lifespan." She grew serious in the way a 5-year-old grows serious when reprimanding a doll. "Wouldn't he be frightfully old?" "He would, yes. We shall have to find him to ascertain whether, in the first instance, he is a living man or merely a spirit, and in the second, assuming he is alive, how old he appears. In any case, he will have demonstrably discovered the secret, or more exactly, a secret of immortality. It will be interesting to see how much vivacity that secret lends him." "Yes, he could just be a hairy little wrinkly thing." "Oh, déjà vu." She slapped him on the back, but was only rewarded with a hard look. "Little bit of succubine humor there," she said, abashed. "Doesn't always travel." They passed many doors en route to the tower top and dutifully checked each and every one of them. All were unlocked, and all were empty, of guards and sorcerer at least. Many showed recent signs of habitation, however, and Cabal calculated that Luanda must have at least 20 unaccounted-for guards or other servants lurking around the apparently abandoned structure. "And you know what that suggests to me?" he said, risking another rhetorical device upon his companion. "Lunch?" said his companion. "An ambush. The two things aren't necessarily exclusive of one another, you know." And as they closed on the topmost floor of the tower, Cabal grew more cautious, while Xerenia became more enthusiastic. She had been impressed upon not to kill Luanda until Cabal said she might, but that the rest of his staff were fair game. "Just try to be, She evidently did not. "Discreet," said Cabal, unsure what that meant in this context. "I shall, darling, you know I shall. I shall very discreetly shag them to death." "Do you have to use that term?" "I have many others," she said, and smiled. Then, more soberly, she added, "Terminology aside, and as much as I enjoy the occasional orgy, or feast, again, depending on terminology, I am concerned by numbers. If you're right, and the Chinese chappie has 20 little friends with him, I can hardly ask them to take a number and read a magazine until I get to them, can I? And there's you with a fish cake. We may have a few problems." Cabal had been thinking along the same lines. "I know a few cantrips," he unwillingly admitted. "I don't usually have much time or talent for such fripperies, but I thought the proximity of the chaos stream would magnify whatever abilities I have in that direction." He reached into his trouser pocket and reluctantly slid out a few inches of ebony wood, thin and gleaming, before letting it slide back into his concealment. Xerenia was agog. "Is that a wand in your pocket?" she said. "Or are you just happy to see me?" Cabal seemed pained. "I do not easily use such accoutrements. There is something very unscientific about them." "Seemed very scientific to me." "Is it telescopic?" "What? Oh, no, these trousers contain a truncheon pocket." "My," she said, "you have a high opinion of yourself." "Oh, pocket. My mistake." "You are smirking, madam." Yes, I am." The attack came as they reached the top of the stairs and as an antechamber before what seemed likely to be Luanda's sanctum sanctorum came into view. The guards, 14, Cabal quickly noted, came charging down the stairs as the necromancer and the devil were still some 10 yards from the top, and therefore at a disadvantage.
Years of reflexive conditioning caused Cabal to first try to threaten the enemy with a wilting fish cake before he realized his mistake. Zarenya, meanwhile, said, "Hello, boys," in tones of undisguised delight before wading in. It turned out that her earlier concerns about being outnumbered had been a little ingenuous, as she was most definitely a fighter as well as a lover of the more terminal sort. Powerful arachnid limbs shot out and caught guards hard enough in the midriff to knock them from their feet. While Cabal was still wrestling with his truncheon pocket, Zarenya was scuttling up a wall, a guard dangling by the scruff of his neck from a hind leg. "This is not the time for that," shouted Cabal, finally clearing the wand from its cloth. "Oh, hush," came the reply. "I know what I'm doing. Buy us time, Johannes. Wave your little stick at them." Cabal truly hated wands. Now the wretched thing was in his hand, he felt as he had always done in the very few instances when he had used one before. Foolish. It was a pleasure to clear his mind before using it, as it allowed him to forget what an utter idiot he must look. The chaos without the walls provided a constant background hum of magical energies, the least ability of which was to cause blinding headaches. The trick was to let the rolling static of creation flow through his consciousness without catching on any thoughts along the way. Chaos was as impressionable as a young child and, like a young child, tended to misinterpret things. It really didn't take too much of a desire to see one's enemies on fire, for example, for chaos to express that as one's medulla going off with the force of a hand grenade. The best plan was to just direct the stuff in a direction where it might cause trouble and then leave it to its own devices. Chaos erupted from the tip of his wand like a lazily drawn line, curving gently in long sinuous waves as it snaked up the stairs and struck a guard squarely in its chest. He must have been entertaining a random notion that he didn't want to trip on the stairs as he would bounce down a good few steps of the steep break. This was duly illustrated by the guard turning momentarily into a guard-shaped figure constructed from toy balls of all sizes and colors before they lost their cohesion and bounced down the steps in a bright avalanche. This would have been a tactical coup twice over if the guard had been to the rear of the attackers, in which case the cascade would have caused them a hazardous descent. As it was, however, the guard had been in the lead, and so only Cabal was troubled by balls bouncing off of him and being forced to hold his position until they had passed for fear of taking a tumble. The guards, all identically dressed and equipped, although noticeably of varied ethnicities, came on, swords slashing at him, and he retaliated by slashing the air with the wand, all the time keeping his mind clear of any violent thoughts. 100 black darts spat from the wand to ricochet harmlessly off the guard's armor, although at least it brought the charge to a premature halt. Several of the darts rolled past Cabal, and he saw that they were fountain pens. On this one occasion, he wished they had been swords. A guard stepped on a pen, and immediately a longsword sprang up through his sandaled foot. His cry was cut short as he tripped forwards, and the tip of the blade caught in the flesh of his throat, and then drove through with the force of his tumble. The body clattered towards Cabal, who reflexively stepped back, stood on a ball decorated with stars and concentric circles that had moments before been a spleen, and himself fell. As he turned his attention from the possibility of being killed by a bunch of men with swords to being killed by bouncing down several hundred stone steps, and revised his defensive options accordingly, Cabal caught a glimpse of something multi-limbed and almost egregiously jolly descending from the upper reaches of the high ceiling on a silken cable. Zarenya plucked one of the soldiers from his feet with her forelegs and threw him offhandedly up into the shadows from whence she had come. He didn't come down again. Her further actions were lost as Cabal continued his fall. Happily, he came down on another ball, the former head, that took the sting from impact and ended up sliding down the steps for some distance rather than going fragile head-over-shatterable heels. He brought himself to a halt after some 20 steps or so and clambered awkwardly to his feet, bruised but unbroken. The guards, but for 4 who had stepped on the fatal pens and now stood or lay impaled, were all gone. Cabal blinked without comprehension. He walked painfully up a little way, recovered his dropped wand, and then continued to the top landing, cautiously avoiding any of the remaining pins. Once clear of immediate danger, he looked up into the shadows and braced himself for what he might see there. He needn't have worried. Xerenia descended the wall, leaving behind her a large and ragged web, clearly put together in great haste. Scattered about it were cocooned forms. A guard's foot stuck out of one. "Won't they suffocate?" asked Cabal out of curiosity rather than concern. "Never have in the past. They don't breathe much once I've given them one of my special kisses anyway." "Special?" said Cabal, and then regretted it as Xerenia smiled broadly and a single white translucent fang extended from within her palate to jut from her mouth. "Special," she confirmed, the fangs sliding back. "They're in comas, having pleasant preopic dreams. Useful if I want a snack later. Shall we proceed, Johannes?" The great double doors of the topmost chamber were unlocked, which spoke to Cabal of their quarry's overweening arrogance, which in turn was a misreading, although they weren't to know that just yet. Certainly the doors slammed open with a satisfying crash when Xerenia put her forelegs against them and shoved. Cabal advanced, the wand tucked back into his pocket, held ready but for a rapid draw by the guise of Cabal nonchalantly wandering in with both hands in his trouser pockets. "Luanda," said Cabal in his best Hokkien dialect Chinese. "We have come to parley with you. Please stop sending your men against us. It is becoming tiresome." Luanda stood before them, dressed in the style of a noble of the Wu dynasty. He seemed to be in his 40s or 50s, sleek and smooth in a manner that troubled Cabal. It reminded him of some experience or some image he had once seen. He could not quite place it, and while it was not a half-memory redolent with danger, it still irked him. "You," said Luanda in a surprisingly youthful tone, probably a side effect of his longevity, thought Cabal. He was more impressed that he had said it in modern German. "You speak the language of my ancestors like my arse chews gum." He folded his arms. "Unconvincingly." Cabal was not sure what to say to that. "That's a bit harsh," said Xerenia in faultless Hokkien. "I thought he made a good fist of it. Well, decent anyway." "Could we discuss my linguistic shortcomings on some other occasion, please?" said Cabal, lapsing into German himself. "Sir, our journey here has been the product of much trouble, taken many difficulties circumvented. I come to you simply as a fellow seeker of deep secrets in the occult academia. If you would stop trying to kill me, it would be greatly appreciated." "You are a fool," said Luanda. "You came here to steal my secrets. You will find only your death." Cabal sighed. "Just once I would like to meet a traveler upon the same path of research as myself, who doesn't instantly wish me death on sight." "Get a lot of this, then?" asked Xerenia. "You have no idea." He addressed Luanda once more. "I can understand your prior attempts to kill me. The crows and the acid bath, you simply wish to be left alone. I can sympathize with that. I've done similar things myself. I understand and forgive them. Now, however, I am here, and we can perhaps help one another." Here Luanda looked down his nose at Cabal and said many hurtful things, primarily matters of race and lineage that stated in so many words a rich seam of bestiality in Cabal's ancestors, and some career choices for his mother that Cabal knew to be untrue. It took a while, but only when Cabal's family tree dating back 4 generations was thoroughly dripping with vitriol and wreathed with effluvium was Luanda finally convinced that Cabal had been sufficiently insulted. Cabal pursed his lips. "And," he said, "that is your final word?" Luanda sneered unbecomingly, a curved and sleek sneer upon an unbecoming face. "Very well. I see you have your laboratory here. Your writing shall have to suffice. I am more than done with you. Zerenia, be so kind as to suck the soul from this shit in human form. Sounds so appetizing when you put it like that, but yes, I doubt anyone else will miss him. Then to Luanda, she said, Pucker up, lover. You're about to get the doing of your life. Luanda's sneer not only failed to vanish, but deepened. I know what you are, monster. A succubine devil, a poor sort of parasite. Zerenia was possibly the most astonished she had ever been in her extraordinarily long life. She looked at Cabal. Did you hear that? He insulted me to my face. I'm about to off him in a manner of ways, and he insults me? She looked back at the wizard, her eyes narrowing and a snarl growing on her face. I was gonna make it quick and pleasant, but you're gonna linger, little man. I'm gonna drag the life from you, a fiber at a time, and you'll beg me to finish you. And when you have pleaded for the 1,000th time, you will still have 9,000 more to go before I first say no. It was an impressive threat, although the terrors it promised were a little time-consuming for Cabal's schedule. Luanda, however, seemed splendidly unconcerned. Somehow he managed to deepen the sneer yet further. It was just as well that his complexion was so very sleek, thought Cabal, or he would have torn his face by now. Then he remembered where he had seen somebody quite that plump and smooth before. You are helpless to harm me, said Luanda. Behold! And somewhat unexpectedly, he drew up his robes to expose himself. Cabal found himself beholding that which, on balance, he would much rather not have been beholding. The energies that you feed upon were sacrificed long ago to give me my magic. Zerenia's anger abated in surprise. Oh, too tinky. That's just rude. A eunuch, said Cabal. Of course. Luanda was a eunuch. It was written right there in the history. He had read it and disregarded it as irrelevant. Luanda mercifully dropped the edge of his robe and snapped an incantation, the high tone of his voice now making perfect sense. Everything grew dark. Well, this is just embarrassing, said Zerenia. And I say that as somebody who once gangbanged at college at Cardinals. I forgot that was a lie. She and Cabal were prisoners. Whatever incantation Luanda had incanted at them had laid them both out, and when he had awoken to find he and the devil in a great cage, his belongings taken from him, and his wrists in manacles, Zerenia, too, was manacled, and her legs hobbled in a series of chains until they formed a cage of their own. She lay on her side in what looked like a very uncomfortable position, and even Cabal, a man unused to sympathy, felt a little sorry for her. It was all thoroughly discourteous of their host. Cabal was just considering the relative metrics of Zerenia's embarrassment, albeit much against his will, when the door to the dungeon opened and, preceded by guards, Luanda entered to examine his prisoners. He didn't get around to it at once, however. First, he found time to walk to the cage, regard its inhabitants for a full 3 minutes in total silence, then sneer extravagantly. Cabal was convinced the 3 minutes had been necessary for Luanda to prepare himself for the sneer, a thing of splenetic perfection. Then, without further comment, somatic or otherwise, he walked to a table in the corner where Cabal's effects were arranged. He sneered his way along the display of surgical instruments, syringes, notebook, binoculars, and other useful items for the necromancer at large, although the sneer did waver when he encountered Cabal's erstwhile pistol. "What is this?" he demanded. "It's a Webley 577 fish cake," said Cabal, irked and truculent. "What did you think it was?" He was especially peeved because before being a fish cake, it had been a brand spanking new example of the gunsmith's art, and now it was a savory. Cabal got through weapons like other men did handkerchiefs, but the reasons for the loss of the weapons were usually something quite sensible. This poor hapless revolver, however, had suffered a fate more ridiculous than death, and was barely out of the box when it happened. Not for the first time, Cabal considered buying shares in Webley, more from a view of any dividends acting as a discount for his profligate pistol purchasing than anything else. "Fish cake," said the Chinese wizard, prodding the breadcrumbs with the lengthy nail of one extended finger. "Ridiculous! You came here to destroy me with such an apparatus?" "I came here to ask you to stop destroying me and perhaps share our researches. I see now the latter part at least was a waste of time. You have no great power other than that you have derived from the abyss. The historical records are incorrect. You may have been sentenced to be sawn in half, but it was never carried out. Instead, you made your escape to here. They were never able to find you, and so they claim to have executed you to save the Emperor's embarrassment. This was an ingenious bolt-hole, I grant you. I don't underestimate the difficulty of purifying its energies to a state where they may be focused and used, and I applaud you on your success, but it is a useless discipline outside the abyss. You're trapped here, because if you were ever to leave, your powers would dwindle away. Am I correct?" "I am not trapped," said Luan Da. "I may leave at any time, and have done so. My powers are greater than you surmise, barbarian. But you are correct that here I am unassailable. Even the great devil that built this palace would be nothing before me if he dared confront me here." "Why don't you say that to his face?" said Zarenia from the floor. "See how that works out for you. He has a frightful temper, you know. I'm all agog to know what he'd do to you, silly little ballless wonder." "I am invulnerable here, demon," repeated Luan Da slowly. "Demon!" cried Zarenia, filled with outrage. "Did you hear that, Johannes? Defend my honor!" Cabal looked over his shoulder at her, considered for a moment, and turned back to Luan Da. "You have insulted the lady. I suggest you apologize." The wizard laughed, a shrill, unlovely sound, much like a hyena in a helium-rich atmosphere. "Or what? Even if you were free, you could do nothing to harm me. In this my palace, no harm may befall me. No weapon may spill my blood. No poison work in my liver. No magic may cause me hurt. All would be humbled before me." Luan Da swept out, tittering unattractively. The door slammed shut behind him, and Cabal and Zarenia were left alone. "What an arse that man is," said Cabal. "You are so sweet, defending my honor like that," said Zarenia. "A demon, he called me, so hurtful. Assuming that fixed expression of yours means that you're busy coming up with a dreadfully clever escape plan, then when we're free and clear, I shall have to give you a proper thank you. I'll try ever so hard not to kill you with it." Cabal regarded her dryly. "I notice you're not dibbing." She held up her wrists. "Manacles. They impede my dibbiness." She lowered them again and looked seriously at him. "Do you have a plan, Johannes? That awful little man was telling the truth. I'm not sure Lucifer himself would be able to lay a glove on him." "I wasn't intending to box with him," said Cabal. "To the contrary, I want to help him." Johannes Cabal smiled, and it had all the warmth and fellowship of a cutthroat. "And so we see the cost of failing to search somebody properly. It had taken a little time and a great deal of concentration, but Cabal was making headway with the wand. It had been lying snugly in the special long pocket in his trousers throughout their initial encounter with Luanda, and had remained undiscovered in their subsequent defeat and incarceration. While undoubtedly an artifact of great power, it was also profoundly unpredictable. The first hour of attempts to escape their cell had produced enough bric-a-brac to supply a church jumble sale, but none of it was proving very helpful for their purpose. Rubber ducks, nesting bowls, unsuitable hats, and a collection of old magazines littered the cell, along with many other items of varying uselessness. Xerenia had been distracted from her supportive early comments first by the appearance of an Angora sweater that she bagsied on sight, as if there was much chance of Cabal wanting it. Unhappily, she was unable to put it on due to her manacles, and it dangled from its hanger on the bars by her while she consoled herself by reading ancient agony ant columns in the magazine. Finally, Cabal gave himself a break from conjuring miscellaneous household goods from chaos and considered where he was going wrong. "The power available here is immense," he said, looking ruefully at the wand. "Luandwa suggested that his power here is absolute, and if he's managed to channel the energies outside effectively, I fear he's correct. Claiming the ability to defeat Satan here may not be an idle boast." "These people talk such rot," said Xerenia, ignoring him. "They say they offer advice in this magazine column, but all they do is make people's lives more complicated. As for their attitudes to sex, they talk about it like it's a bad thing." "Sex with you is a bad thing." "Not for me, it isn't. And anyway, I'm a very special case, but this advice, well, really, what's wrong with being the tiniest bit one time now and again? What exactly is so sinful about onanism? What actual harm is done by the occasional bit of necrophilia?" "I suspect you'd find a bit of resistance on at least one of those points." She threw the magazine aside and looked disconsolately at Cabal. "Haven't you made anything useful yet? I thought we'd be out of here in a flash, and a puff of smoke, possibly some streamers." Cabal regarded her icily, receiving criticism not being one of his strong suits. "I'm working on it." "While you're about it, do you think you could, whip up a wooden hanger for my sweater? Which is lovely, by the by, thank you so much. The wire one it came with is playing havoc with the shoulders, though. A soft material like that needs to hang from a lovely, smooth, rounded surface. My shoulders, ideally, but that's a problem until we get these manacles off." "Madam," began Cabal, "I have matters of greater import than—" He paused and looked inquiringly at the sweater where it hung. "Wire, you say?" Shortly thereafter, the sweater, carefully folded at Xerenia's instruction, and its wire hanger liberated and unwound to form an impromptu lockpick, Cabal grunted with satisfaction as he freed his own wrist from their manacles. "I like your satisfied grunting," said Xerenia dreamily. Cabal ignored her. Presently they were freed of their manacles, shackles, and of their cell, the locks being of a uniformly unchallenging design. "It pays to invest in quality," Cabal had commented, as the cell door swung open. Now they stood, resolute, liberated, and in Xerenia's case, wearing Angora. "I presume the plan is to quietly run away now?" She said it with the air of a vain hope. "You presume incorrectly. Luanda will continue to badger me with assorted curses until one of them sticks, I have no doubt. No, he must be dealt with." "This is the man who feels quite confident that Satan can't hurt him. I think that bears repeating?" "Yes." Cabal looked around him, deep in thought. "His defensive wards and barriers are as near impervious as it makes no difference. We cannot harm him." He paused as a thought struck him. "No, We cannot hurt him. He grinned savagely, a sight that had once sent a hellhound running, yelping for its mother. Come along, Madame Serenia. We have a wizard to defeat. The doors of Luanda's sanctum sanctorum once more crashed open under the impetus of large spider legs. Hello, Serenia said to the startled sorcerer. Let's try this again, shall we? Impossible, cried Luanda, a silly sort of thing for an immortal eunuch living in hell's abandoned parliament to say. Only highly improbable as it transpires, said Cabal, walking past the Renya to confront Luanda. But if you will insist on living in a boiling cauldron of chaos, you only have yourself to blame for that. Luanda shook off his surprise with great effort of will. So you escaped. It will do you no good. I will simply return you to your confinement. Guards! There was no clatter of armed men in response, only the distant groaning of chaos in the eaves. Guards! Cried Luanda once more. They're indisposed, darling, said Serenia. Which is to say, they're dead, but I didn't want to shock you. No matter, Luanda, slightly shocked anyway. My own powers shall doom you. Actually, I was thinking perhaps we could have a little duel, said Cabal. My magic against yours. Luanda laughed, and it was an uncharismatic sound as ever. You? Your feeble skills are no match for mine, barbarian. Even the great devil would. Yes, said Cabal dismissively. We've already heard you brag in that manner before. Personally, I doubt you would long survive my first volley. My defenses are perfect, Luanda said with one of his overly complicated sneers. You can cause me no hurt, no man, nor any demon. And here he pointedly looked at Serenia. Cabal heard her mutter, "Ooh," crossly behind him. Can bring me harm. Your words are empty, fool. Well then, Cabal drew his wand. Prepare to defend yourself. Luanda smirked, which was just as unpleasant an expression as a sneer on that buttery face, and with a few short syllables of power, the air around him thickened as wards and barriers to protect him from any conceivable source of violence formed. When he was satisfied that they were in place, he contemptuously waved Cabal to him an invitation to duel. Cabal looked at the wand in his hand, hoped he had judged things correctly, aligned his thoughts, and cast a spell at Luanda. It was all very disappointing. The tip of the wand illuminated with a mild golden lambency, then fluttered out after a few seconds. Cabal examined the wand once more, pursing his lips. He said. Ha! Shouted Luanda. That was your best, was it? Now prepare for an agony of slow death, you fool. Cabal put away his wand and crossed his arms, awaiting certain destruction. With polite impatience. I call upon the powers of the abyss. I summon the forces that were old when the earth was formed. Luanda coughed. I call upon... He coughed again. He touched his throat, plainly concerned. Don't worry, said Cabal. It's perfectly normal. Impossible! Luanda was croaking. This is impossible! What have you done to me, barbarian? Around him the air flexed and the distortions of his defenses faded slowly. Well, I haven't done you any harm, if that's what you're concerned about. You were quite right. Those were impressive defenses. I certainly couldn't hurt you through them, so instead, I did quite the opposite. Something your defenses were never intended to stop. I feel strange. Luanda succumbed to another coughing fit. What is happening to me? Oh, your throat? That will pass with time. It's just your voice breaking. It happens to all the little boys. Luan Da froze. His eyes widened. No! Yes, I didn't even try to hurt you, Luan Da. I've healed you. You should be grateful. Oh, Cabal feigned exasperation with himself. I'm so forgetful, of course. Your magic depended on you being a eunuch, didn't it? Silly me. Never mind. I meant well. Luan Da looked around frantically, suddenly becoming all too aware of an unfamiliar weight between his legs. A knife! There must be a knife somewhere. I can... He stopped, staring wildly at Cabal. The demon! Where is it? Some prickling premonition made him look up. Hello, darling, said Zarenya as she descended on a silken cable, death in Angora. She was not smiling. Guess what? You really should have apologized when Johannes asked you to. The departure from Pandemonium was leisurely. Cabal observed the first stages of Zarenya's feeding process out of scientific interest and made a few notes. Then he smoked a cigar, but it seemed that Zarenya really did intend to drag out Luan Da's quietus to great lengths, so he wandered off to do what he usually did when he found himself in the home of a rival necromancer or sorcerer, which is to say, he looted it. The guards they had fought earlier still hung pathetically from the web above the staircase. Luan Da had made no attempt to rescue them. Perhaps he would have got around to it later, perhaps he wouldn't have. He seemed to have a very inflexible attitude to failure, and Cabal imagined it was perfectly in character for him to leave the sluggishly writhing bodies up there as a warning to the new intake of guards when he recruited them. It took several hours and netted him some useful items, yet Zarenya was still nowhere near done with Luan Da when he got back. Cabal might have felt some pity for him, but the memory of a loofah prevented even the faintest kindling of sympathy. Instead, Cabal went off to find a bed and slept for a while. He was awoken by being prodded by a giant spider leg. Up and at 'em, sleepyhead, said Zarenya. Luan Da? Luan done. She smiled a smile that was not in the least part nice. Grab your kit and we'll be on our way. I'm bored with this place. Cabal rose and noticed a couple of man-sized bulges firmly webbed to the underside of her abdomen. Through the threads at the end of one, the lines and metallic glint of a guard's helmet could just be discerned. Snacks for the trip, explained Zarenya. If I get peckish. The thread she used to reach Pandemonium was still in place, and she climbed with astonishing agility along it with Cabal clinging to her back, hugging her around the waist, and putting up with the commentary on the glories of Angora wool the whole way. At least he had developed the mental skills necessary to avoid making the transit as some variety of fish-human hybrid, which was a relief. The return journey was otherwise uneventful. Several hours of ascent passed with occasional conversation and a long period during which Cabal accepted a lift, his dignity less affronted by the offer than on the downward trip. Finally, they were back where they had first met. They looked at the summoning circle, its candles long guttered. Zarenya said, "Ah, memories. It seems like such a long time ago now." "It appears we are at the parting of the ways, Madame Zarenya," said Cabal. He seemed awkward and unsure. "Indeed," she said. "I've had a lovely time, Johannes. I'm not sure I've ever had such fun." She regarded him fondly, as one might a stalwart companion or perhaps an amusing pet. "I'm sorry you didn't find what you were looking for." Cabal smiled wanly. "Yes, Luan Da's great secret was something of a disappointment. Living castrated in chaos isn't really a helpful avenue for me. Still, it was an adventure to be sure." Zarenya spoke abruptly, the words coming quickly as if she'd just rehearsed them. "I just want you to know, if you ever have need of a devil again in the future, think of me, will you?" You won't have to muck around with binding rights and all that rigmarole either. I won't hurt you, Johannes. You're too much fun to hurt. I promise I shan't. She held up 2 fingers together in a salute. Dib, dib, dib. Your dibs are more than good enough for me. He cleared his throat. Madam, I am very pleased to have made your acquaintance. Very pleased indeed. Zarenya leaned forward, took off his hat, and kissed him on the forehead before he had time to react. She put the hat back and smiled. Farewell, Johannes. She turned and walked back into the circle. As she dissolved into shadows and fancies, returning to the realms from which she had been summoned, he distantly heard her call. Don't be a stranger. Johannes Cabal wasn't used to being liked, and it left him troubled and uncertain. Parting was such strange sorrow, and finally he settled his hat more firmly on his head, took up his bag laden with stolen treasures, and left the hidden entrance to hell, known as Kemsh, entering into a Wednesday afternoon in a small market town. And that was the end. Friendship, Johannes style. Yes, exactly. It's the cutest thing ever because he doesn't have friends. So the first friend he makes is a fucking demon that is the complete inverse of his personality, and also a succubus. I thought you guys might like that one. That one is probably my favorite. And Swiftblood, if you're still here, now you know what that pink sweater's for. So, and like I said, this isn't the only part she's in. She comes back later. So she's going to be emerging in one of the 2 last books. So yeah. It's going to be a fun time. And the thing is that no one knows this happened. So no one knows that Johannes' best friend is a demon. Aw, bye, Insomniac. I know it's late. I told you this one was long. And of course, if you missed part of it, it'll be up on YouTube just as soon as I can get it up there. So, I know it was long and people probably had to dip in and out. I saw a couple people dip in and out. Yes, before you go, next week, we aren't doing it. It's my anniversary. So next Tuesday, I'm going to be celebrating my anniversary, because the 4th is the actual anniversary, but you can't do anything on the 4th because it's a national holiday and nothing's open. So I'm going to be celebrating my anniversary on Tuesday. We will not be meeting next Tuesday, so I'm very sorry. We will be resuming the Tuesday after, though, right on schedule, 8 Central. Thank you. And also, good night if you all are leaving. I just wanted to let you know that before you got kind of upsetty spaghetti next week when you didn't realize it. Thank you. Hey, that's okay. Surprise visitors happen. We get it. Oh, back when I used to go to conventions, if you really want to hear this story, for anybody who wants to know, back when I went to conventions, and I've never really been a huge fan of public gatherings, but I was with someone previously, a long time ago, who was very into the con scene, and a lot of his He was very social, but also not social at all, inversely. He was an odd one. Anyway, he had a lot of friends in the con scene that worked guest relations at cons. And so, and he was also trying to break into working into the con scene. He wanted to work there. So he would go to pretty much any con we got the chance to, and I would always end up going. And we ended up making arrangements to go to a con. I ended up paying for it with my money. I paid for the convention tickets, I paid for the hotel room, and the idea was he was going to reimburse me for his half. And he ended up, we ended up breaking up. It was a very complicated situation. He ended up punching me in the face. And I was like, fuck this, I'm out. And I left. And I suddenly had to pay for a new apartment, a new deposit, a new everything, and moving into my own place. And all of the people I knew were really his friends, because I'm not social and I don't have any friends, you know this. And so I pretty much, everyone I knew was his friends first. And so I felt like I couldn't trust anybody or talk to anyone. I was completely on my own, and I moved into an apartment by myself. And which was a financial struggle, but also the tickets were non-refundable. Like the con passes, the weekend passes were non-refundable. The hotel had a cancellation fee, and I was unable to do that. So I was just sort of like, great, I have to find people to go to this con and split this hotel room with me, which I really didn't want to do, but I also couldn't afford to just lose that. And I think he really expected me to not be there, because he had clearly made his own arrangements to go, anticipating that I would back out because I would be incapable of doing so. Well, I was working a job at the time in a very depressing call center, and one of my coworkers I knew was into anime, and I didn't know her very well, and so I was like, hey, I don't really know, and feel free to say no, because we barely know each other. Would you like to go to a convention with me? Do you have the money to go to a convention with me? I am suddenly put into this position of needing people to go to this convention with me, because I don't want to lose out on the hotel fee, and I would just as soon as not go, but I'm going to have to pay a lot of out-of-pocket just to be able to not go at this point. And she was like, not only can I go, you picked the right person, because I know a whole bunch of people that would also be willing to split this hotel with us and pay for it. And I was like, fantastic. Cool. And she told me about her boyfriend at the time, and his best friend named Dave, who would love to go, they said. And they immediately forwarded me the money. I friended them both on social media to like work out arrangements for them and talk to them about stuff. And apart from that, I didn't really talk to these people before we went to this con. And the deal is that they already were planning on volunteering at the con anyway. They already knew of this con, and coincidentally, they also knew my ex's friend that worked in guest relations. They were loosely acquainted with her, and we were all like, how have we not met all these years? And my only solution was, I'm not very social, so I never interacted with anybody anyway, and that's how they had apparently been friends for years, and no one knew. So I didn't know these people. And they were going to go ahead and go to the con in her boyfriend's car, whose name was Greg, and me and her name was Meredith, my coworker, were going to go in my car. And she asked, hey, can I put some stuff in your trunk? It belongs to Dave. And I said, sure. I thought it was like going to be like a bag. It was not a bag. She shows up to my apartment with platform boots covered in chains, a ripped up battle jacket, a giant cannon that can attach over your arm that spins and lights up, a helmet, and I was like, what the fuck is all this? And she was like, this is Dave's stuff. And I was like, what is he doing? Going to war? What year is it? And I was like, I didn't know all this shit was going to go in my trunk. What is this bullshit? And she was like, oh, he likes to cosplay. And I was like, I mean, cool, but what the fuck is he cosplaying from? What is this? She was like, actually, it's not really from an anime. It's from a band based off of Mega Man. And not really Mega Man, though. Is you know Mega Man? And she's trying to explain it and doing it very badly. He was cosplaying Proto Man from Mega Man, but not Proto Man from the game. Proto Man from the rock opera. So I didn't know what the fuck this was. I'd never heard of this band. I knew what Mega Man was, and I knew what Proto Man was, but this didn't look like Proto Man shit. It looked like something else. I was like, this doesn't look like Proto Man. And so that was my first impression of Dave. And then when I met him, I was like, saw the shit in my trunk. And he was like, oh yeah, I need that helmet. And that is how we met. And we just started hanging out from there. He introduced me to the band. And mostly we ended up talking because we became friends because I had obviously gone through a very rough breakup, and his ex, this is gonna sound fake as fuck, and I guarantee you this is true, his ex-wife tried to leave him to join the circus. And I'm not kidding you. There's proof to back this up. And so we had both been... so I was a little salty this entire week because my ex, in addition to punching me in the face, had assured me that a lot of our problems were not because he was talking to someone else. But he was. And it was very evident because she was at the con with him. And I knew he knew that he really banked on me not being there. So when I show up, he was just sort of like, oh shit. And it was pretty evident that he had lied to me about a lot of stuff. Anyway, it's an old story. But that's how we met. So I was really salty because not only did I figure out that he lied when we broke up, but he also expected me to not be there, which meant that he was banking on me losing out on hundreds of dollars, which is even shittier. And yeah, I was pretty pissed off, and so I didn't really want to be at this con. I didn't even really want to enjoy myself, but I don't like large groups of people, so I was pretty much kind of going out and riding on spite the entire time. Yeah, he couldn't make a sandwich. And Dave knew what I was kind of going through because he went through a period of time where all he wanted to do was rail against, shit that had happened to him. And he was like, yeah, sometimes I'd just go out in the backyard and I'd hit a tree with my axe until I couldn't anymore. And then I'd fall asleep for days. And I was like, okay, you get it, my guy. You get it. And then we became friends. And, yeah. It's that guy. That guy that punched me in the face. He would get bananas and then not eat them. And then I just, anyway, whatever. It's fine. The banana thing is not really related to this particular story. But that's how we met. And we became friends from there. And we started talking and hanging out. And eventually we're just like, why don't we give this a shot? And he was like, okay. And yeah. And that's how we met, and that's how we got together. But that wasn't for a while after we started talking. But the night we decided to was at a 4th of July party when I met his parents, and his parents really liked me. And we talked about it that night, and we were like, you know what, maybe... Oh, no, not the banana stone. That was from a different incident. But no, the dude that punched me in the face, he used to, okay. This was the guy I met in college. The guy that punched me in the face that I used to date. And he used to get a bunch of bananas. And he really only ever ate one banana. He would get like 7 bananas, like a whole bunch of them. You know, they come in like 6 or 7s. He'd get a whole bunch of bananas, eat one, and let the rest of them rot on the counter. And I have a huge issue with wasting food. I just don't. Why? Just buy one banana if you want one banana. Anyway, and so I would take bananas everywhere. I would eat bananas all the time because I knew they were going to go bad, and he would only ever eat one. And I'm like, you got to eat these bananas, and he'd let them spoil. So I would always like eat a banana, and I had bananas all the time. People thought I loved bananas. I hated bananas. I just didn't want them to go to waste. So like I would always have like a banana on me almost at all times. And so one time I was at a party, like a college party I didn't want to be at. And I had used fake phone calls to get out a myriad of stuff before. And a lot of the time, I would have actual phone calls. Like at one point, someone called me and they were like, what are you at? And I'm like, I'm at a party. And they instinctively were like, oh, yeah, we got an emergency. We need you to leave. I can come here. I have a wig emergency. So I got out of a party bus saying there was a wig emergency once. And another time I had a banana on me and I was looking for my phone to pretend like I got a phone call. And instead I accidentally pulled out a banana out of my backpack and was like, I gotta take this. And they were like, that's a banana. And I realized it was a banana. And I was like, well, I can either commit to this bit or I can act embarrassed and admit I had no phone call. So I just doubled down. So I just doubled down. I was like, yeah, it's very important. And they were like, you can't, whoa. And I just walked out. And that worked. That was the worst bit. But anyway, I used to do all sorts of shit with bananas just to make sure they wouldn't go bad. So now I hate bananas. I used to make banana bread and I used to make these like banana pies. It was like bananas, condensed, like, you caramelize condensed milk and like brown sugar and like put it into like a little pie and then bake it and then pie. Anyway, whatever. I used to do so much shit with bananas and now I fucking hate bananas. I hate them in everything. I hate banana flavoring. I hate banana bread. I hate banana fucking anything. Anything banana flavored. Oh, I just remembered what bananas taste like and I threw up a little bit in my mouth. Sorry. I was going to sound really bad on the audio. I was like, for a second, I was like, I need to put this someplace. And there was no place. So I just swallowed it. Luckily, it tasted like Bailey's. Oh, no. Okay, we can't talk about bananas anymore. I hate bananas. I can't think about the bananas. That's the thing, is it puts all the burden on you. It's a food that goes bad drastically quickly, and then no one eats them. And then you're just like, well, who's going to do anything with these bananas? Might as well be me. It's disgusting. I hate bananas. Anyway, so that's the banana story, and also the story of how me and Dave met. So, apricots. I don't have any major beef with apricots. Yeah, fuck bananas though. Bananas gotta go. The banana is going extinct anyway. Soon we won't have any more. Ooh, that sounds delicious. I would try it. See, that's my thing. Is I like fruity stuff and I love coffee stuff. So like, it depends on how it's done, because I've had some bad ones, but sometimes it's pretty magical when you put them together the right way. It's got to be perfect though. There's a ratio of some kind or a method. Anyway. It's weird. I still want to try it. I want to try it. I have to try it. I have to try things. I'll try any coffee at least once. Now, if I don't like it after I try it, I won't subject myself to it. But I always got to try it. And I'll try anything once. Do you have a thing with citrus, or is it just oranges, or? Yeah, I want to try it at least. I also want to try the Jack Daniels one. I gotta try that. Because that sounds like something I would be extremely into as both an avid drinker of both coffee and Jack Daniels. Korea pears? Whatever that is. Huh. Strange. I mean, is it like an allergy or something, I guess? Maybe. Smoothie coffee, best kind of coffee. Exactly. You know what's up. Man, I'm so stoked. I have all this Monster. I gotta tell Jasmine that oh my God. Jasmine's gonna trip. Ooh, that sounds awesome. Crossbreeding is so crazy now. I would try that. I would try that all day. I would try that. I'll try and film it. I'm gonna get her on film. I'm just gonna tell her I need her to come over and be like, yo, hey, it would be super great if you could come by. I have something I need to chat with you about. And we'll see. I'll get that. I'll get that on film if I can. But yeah, I'm gonna see if I can do that now, actually, and then we're gonna hop in VC and do some stuff. I'm sorry, I'm a little distracted. I have a massive mosquito bite on my right where my the top of my foot meets my ankle, where your foot bends, and all week, I scratched it open somehow. I think I did that in my sleep. I'm not sure. But it was healing, and then I had to go to work. And so I put my sock on, and I walked around on it all day. And then at the end of the day, when I took my sock off, the scab just ripped off. This is very disgusting. Anyway, and now every subsequent day when it starts healing and scabbing over, I go to take my sock off and it rips open. And so I just went to like pull my sock up and I felt it rip. Anyway, this is disgusting. I'm bleeding is the short story. It wasn't like a super interesting story, but that's the gist of it. So I'm just sort of like looking at my ankle bleeding into my Captain America socks. I'm fine. I'm fine. I'm just gonna put alcohol on it. Use rubbing alcohol for an outside wound. Use regular alcohol for an inside wound. Okay. My Captain America socks. My Captain America socks. You have Band-Aids like a lot. I think we have like generic Neosporin in the kitchen. But anyway, that was not like a super important thing that you needed to know. I just want to let you know if it looks like I'm distracted, it's because I am a little bit. But yeah, we're not going to meet next Tuesday. Oh, just super glue, man. You just super glue your skin closed. I'm super like negligent of my own needs. I'm like, I'll work through it. I'll just keep going. Just magically produce Band-Aids. It sounds legit. But yeah, I'm gonna get off of here and I'm gonna see if I can't get a hold of Jasmine and let them know they need to visit. And then I will probably hop in VC for some fun time where we maybe discuss the ramifications of devil morality, or what our capitalist worth is in cat currency, or I don't know. It's normally pretty chaos in there. Or maybe we just need to add more fish to the Discord. Maybe that's what our chaos needs, more fish. Anyway. That's what I really want to talk about, because I have two things. One thing I wanted, because I was going to be like, wait until after we read the short story, and two, go watch the Backrooms. Anyway, I have things. Backrooms. Anyway, if you haven't seen it already, you might have already. Anyway, maybe go watch the Backrooms, and I'm going to get at you about that video because there's some stuff I want to talk about, with implications of both towards Ouroboros Ouzo and the Backrooms, the YouTube series. The YouTube series, the Backrooms. I'll send it to you, and then you can... Yes. Vanilla cherry coffee, that sounds awesome. Anyway. Yes. I'm going to give you a link. On YouTube. Yeah, you need to see it. It has implications toward the video that I would like to explore philosophically with you. Anyway, I'll be over there in a little bit. Thank you. Yeah, see you in 2 weeks, guys. Thank you all for being here. I've had a great time. We're going to start the Brothers Cabal. the Tuesday after next at 8 p.m. Central. It's been great hanging out with you, and I'm gonna miss you. And thank you for all the monster and the stuff off my wish list. I'm gonna get to do some cool stuff with it. I just restyled my Johannes wig literally right before this live, so that's exciting. We're gonna be doing some fun stuff. So, see you soon.